So you're for the deportations?
Yes, definitely.
You are.
I voted for Joe Biden, who has the record for a 4-year deportation. So
really?
Of course I'm in favor
really?
of deportation.
So let's just do you think there were people detained under every president that were unlawfully detained?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So don't really see much of a difference here other than it's a little pet project to the left.
Really, you don't see a difference between them finding out that they're illegally deporting people and saying, I'm refusing to bring these people back and allowing them to... That's not what I said. They said they are refusing to bring them back. You keep skipping over that part. They did say that.
All right, let me instruct
said
you.
it numerous times.
Let me instruct you.
Stephen Miller said it numerous times. Donald Trump said it numerous times.
Let me instruct you what they said
it
specific. So if there's a guy who's an American citizen that's detained in Ukraine, if Joe Biden says no more fucking money for your country unless you release him to us, you don't think they would have?
Yeah, but
then I guess I win the argument.
No, because you're
right.
Rob,
because it's
seriously,
irrelevant.
No, it's not irrelevant. Seriously, you think paying like what a couple thousand per person is relevant to like a couple $100 billion for one person? You think that's actually the same thing?
What we said is that the courts cannot tell. A district court cannot
tell
the president, you have to do this.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Policy. And so I'm saying that, yes, if we deport Donald Trump and we put him in CCOT before the election, now you're saying no judge could have told Joe Biden, you have to bring Donald Trump back.
That is what I'm saying.
Hey, we are live back for the main event of the evening. It's going to be Rob Noerr, the host of Normal America and a member of the Crucible, versus Tomfoolery, the host of the Tomfoolery Show. Here's some experienced players. It's going to be a good one. The topic was, if y'all remind me, what was the topic again? I apologize so much.
Left versus right.
Left versus right violence, political violence. Which is worse? Tom here is representing all of the left, every single one of them. He's going to answer for leftist violence tonight. And Rob is answering for all the righties who've gotten violent in all of history. So it's going to be good. I'm excited. Tomfoolery, we flipped the coin earlier, and it was Tomfoolery who's going to go first. So he's going to pretend to be the app for this. Same format as earlier. It's good stuff. Any questions before we begin? No? All right, boys, kick it off. We got 7 minutes, starting whenever.
All right. So from every study that I've seen done on political violence, they all seem to come to the conclusion that the right commits more political murders. I will concede pretty quickly that the left commits more instances of political violence. So if we look at every single riot that was...
I won't give you some time. Go ahead.
So I'll immediately admit that the left commits more instances of violence, meaning that every single time there was a riot with BLM, there was another instance of political violence. Every single time a lefty keyed a Tesla, that's another instance of political violence. But the left tends to engage in property destruction whenever they engage in political violence, and the right is more likely to engage in threats to life when they engage in political violence, whether it's towards politicians or just in general at protests or in public, at clubs, anything like that. It seems as though the right is more likely to commit murders. And when we talk about political violence, obviously there is the property destruction is a type of political violence, but the spectrum of violence, what is more violent? I would say that murder is way more violent, to where a much smaller amount of instances of political violence, but it being a much more violent action each time would make it to where I would definitely say that the right is much more violent when it comes to political violence.
All right, is that it?
Yep.
All right, I will go to Rob in one moment, let you go. We've got 2 super chats in just now. We got $20 from AJC Ciala. Anyway, I'm Hispanic. I still messed up your name. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, no, como está? Anyway, let's go, Rob. Thanks, Smith, for hosting the debate. It's much appreciated, man. In1SB, much love. Stay safe out there, fellas. Hit the like and subscribe if you haven't already, guys. All right, then we got another one from Paul Long Nate for $10. Rob, don't let him evade holding to instances.
Thanks,
Nate.
Nate.
Thank you so much. Also, you don't need to pull your mic a little more into it. Tom. Yeah, and then one more point of order for the tech team. Are y'all listening, tech team?
That's you guys, the
That's
tech
guys.
guys. Yeah.
They're not listening. Tech team, they said turn off the sound effects. They can't hear. All right, appreciate it. All right, and Rob, you got 7 minutes.
Thank you.
Slow down.
First off, thank you for hosting this. Gibbs, Grid, thanks for hosting. Tom, thanks for being here. Thank you, audience. And if you're watching at home, you made a big mistake not coming to this event. It's been a blast. Thank you. Thank you. Now, listen.
This is what I like. This is what I like to hear.
If you guys keep doing it for 2 hours, we won't have to talk. That'd be wonderful, you know.
And they'll still get paid.
All right, the debate. Right, the debate. All right, topic is, who's more violent, the left or the right? It's always nice when your opponent concedes in the opening statements. I'll take it the left does have more instances, which would be a quantifying mark. You may say the quality of the violence is worse on the right, which I'll disagree with as well. But as far as the prompt we've agreed to, happy to get that concession in an opening statement. That's like 3 times this month for me, not too shabby. Now, I'm a good debater, but it also helps to be on the right side of the issue, which I have the good fortune of being most of the time. So let's talk about this. We all know, every one of us know, without looking at one study, that the left is overwhelmingly more violent than the right. And that's been the case ever since Donald Trump came on that escalator and even before then. Even if we go back to the days of the Weather Underground, what we see is the left not only engages in violence more, in both proportion and in the quality of that violence, but it's also that they're rarely held to the same standard. In fact, the standards are inverse when it comes to our culture and when it comes to our legal system. For example, people in the Weather Underground that were literally domestic terrorists went on to be professors and people that were instructing actual prominent politicians in this country, such as Bill Ayers, that was one of the mentors of Barack Obama. Anytime there's any sort of right-wing violence, it's almost universally condemned by the people in positions of culture and politics, and in particular, our law enforcement. You could name the amount of right-wing political violence on one hand. I'd be shocked if you could come up with more than 2 in the past 8 years, because that's how infrequent it is. Whereas with the left, we could talk about violence. I could take one city like Portland and probably come up with hundreds of examples in the past 8 years of political violence. Now, the truth is, the reason we're hyper-focused on political violence is because of the insidious intent of it. The truth is, political violence stands apart as though all violence is bad, but it stands apart because it's designed to switch our politics and our culture. This is what makes it unique from like a carjacking or a mugging. Because the left engages in this amount of political violence, it allows them to change the cultural narrative and allows them to change the political landscape. Quite possibly the best of us was Charlie Kirk. And after his assassination, which there was almost no repudiation in a general scale when it came to the left, in particular the politicians, the media, etc., who basically went to do everything possible immediately preceding the death of Charlie Kirk to basically say he deserved it by continuing to use the language of the shooter. Because no one's held to account culturally or politically for these motivations, things will escalate. And what are the repercussions? Well, the right's rudderless, and there's all sorts of bad things that have been occurring politically since then with the right. And meanwhile, the left proclaims victory. Within 2 weeks, the left was able to successfully change the narrative of Charlie Kirk to that of Jimmy Kimmel taking a 3-day vacation, and somehow this was the big story. The studies you cite are frankly bullshit. When you look at the metrics of them, they do things like say that right-wing violence constitutes things like racial violence that occurs in prison, and yet it won't say that black racial violence that occurs is an example of left-wing violence. There's no indication whatsoever that most of these events are even politically motivated in the first place. Some of the studies from CISIS and the Persecution Project included incidents like this. A Catholic church was vandalized with swastikas, called right-wing violence. A murder occurs in prison where we saw a white man and a black man murder a Hispanic man. That's right-wing violence because they used a racial slur for Hispanic people. The truth is we all know where the majority of this violence comes from. Even if you could say that more murders occur on the right, I fundamentally disagree and think that those are categorization errors. But the overwhelming preponderance of evidence is that the left commits more violence politically, they get away with it more and has more change, and that our politicians and our FBI and other law enforcement treat them in the exact inverse proportion, letting them get away with almost impunity, which is why to this day, we continue to see people mocking Charlie Kirk, attacking Turning Point USA on campuses, and getting away with almost impunity of attacking our great ICE enforcement officers. That's it. That's my say.
Hey, thank you. I love the audience participation. The audience is hyped. We appreciate it. The debaters are hyped. We appreciate it. Hey, chat, I got some super chats to read. Before I read the super chats, tech team, if you don't mind, I need y'all to get these sound alerts off for the donos. It is impossible for them to hear the debaters in the live debate. I know that's not usually a thing. We will get that fixed. I apologize, chat. Going forward. Okay, let's get through these super chats real quick, and then I'll open it back up. Let's see, $5. Damn, Rob, I know you're good, but winning openings before it's even your turn. Based, Rob, is your last name Norwitz? I don't know. Well, I guess we're doxing you. All right, let's go. Whatever.
Norwitz.
Yeah, whatever. Sorry for the dox. Anyway, American Nacho, $10. Tom conceding the opening. What do now? And then for the last one, we have one more super chat. Hall Late Long Nate, $10. Tom gonna need some aloe vera after that scathing opener. All right, I think that's all the super chats. Tech team, please get the sound off for the donos if you don't mind, and we will kick this off going. Let's get going. If I interrupt, it's for logistical or pressing reasons. We got another sound alert. It looks like $50 for Johnny MD. Rob #1, appreciate the money. Thank you so much. Grid spent a lot of money on this event, make it happen. So make sure y'all give him your money now, because we ain't doing this for your enjoyment. We're doing this.
Well, it is
for whatever. All right, we're chilling. Anyway, all right, let's kick it off. Go ahead, fight.
I think if I added aloe vera to my head, I'm already blinding the camera.
That's true.
Who needs to see? You just need to yell.
Worse, but
so sorry. Let me interrupt one more time.
I had the courtesy.
We got $2 more. I don't even know how to say this. Neurons unite in test meeting. All right, go ahead, Tom. I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
Okay, so I will agree that there are some studies that actually have some weird categorizations and weird ways of doing their studies. But I tend to look at the one by the Cato Institute that has the best process, where they're only going by conviction. So even if somebody does some sort of
speak up. If you don't mind, Tom, speak up.
We could face this way too a little, might help.
Y'all don't got to look at me. And let me pause you one more real quick. It's Tom Wade of the Lore Coat. I guess they like your outfit. I don't know. You style and profile. And listen, they told me I looked like a gay pimp earlier, so it can't be any worse than that. Don't worry. I got the baby powder in the backpack.
If I was a prostitute, I would want a pimp that looks like
I'm just saying. Listen, ask no questions in your life. But go ahead. When you're speaking, just speak up into the mic.
Yeah.
So you're a little more responsible.
I like the Cato Institute studies because they actually go by convictions instead of just by any instance, then trying to figure out that person's life. And sometimes somebody kills themselves after they commit an act of murder, whether or not they actually did it, they didn't get convicted of it. So Cato Institute actually goes. Well,
let me ask you this. Obviously, we're in a format, we don't have the internet in front of us. That's fine. Do you have a general idea of, in say the last 20 years, the Cato Institute study, how many instances of political violence murders do they cite? Do you have a general idea? I'm not holding you to a specific number.
I think it was about 800 something.
800
examples
of okay, so were there any in the past 4 years that I would know of?
Of right-wing violence?
Yes.
Well, there was I believe this one is on there, but there's the obviously more recent ones with the Hortmans, the Hoffmans.
Why would that be right wing? The Hortmans.
The guy voted for Trump.
So that qualifies. So if someone votes for a political party and commits an act of murder against a politician or someone affiliated with politics, that's considered violence from the opposite party?
Are we questioning whether or not, no, it's not just voting, but he was categorized as a very ardent Trump fan, that he was a Republican registered.
It seems to me that he was clearly delusional. He thought that he was ordered to do that by Tim Walz, correct? Mm-hmm. So this seems, if we're going to say that someone that's some sort of delusional maniac that thinks that a Democratic
I want to be clear. I don't know that he was delusional.
Let me just pause. We got another super chat. I apologize for the Wop told me he demands the live debate be absolutely serious, professional. That means no comedy, no antics, no shenanigans, and absolutely zero tomfoolery. All right, go ahead. So sorry, Tom. Yeah.
But wait a minute. If he wasn't delusional, then he was told by Tim Walz to murder someone, and so you're saying that's an act of right-wing violence?
Saying that he is claiming that he was told to do that. I don't know if he's delusional or what. I haven't seen any sort of psych analysis on him to know whether or not he's delusional, but he could just be lying as well.
Okay, let's put it this way. You'll acknowledge this, that the statistics are incumbent upon arrests and convictions.
Yes.
Okay. Does the Cato Institute say that Rittenhouse shooting was a right-wing instance of violence?
Not that I know of.
Because the last time I debated this, that was the claim that someone tried to make. So the Cato doesn't say that.
No, I think the ADL does. I don't think Cato does.
Can you understand the skepticism when you yourself are admitting the majority of these studies are bullshit?
I don't know about the majority of them, but
name me one other than Cato.
Well, I was going to ask you, can you name me a study that's done by somebody else? Because Cato is right wing. It's a libertarian. It's a libertarian group, but I don't know of another study that says that the left commits more acts of political murder.
So the Atlantic came out this year and said when it comes to this year, the left's committing more violence,
Correct.
which is ridiculous for a left-wing rag
7
like the
murders
Atlantic.
to 6 murders.
Okay, so that's number one. Really? What the 13 political murders? Do you know them?
The 13?
Yes.
I could go over a lot of them. Yeah.
Okay, Hortman's.
Yeah, so obviously the Hortmans.
Okay.
Then there was the who was the guy who killed the CEO at the beginning
Luigi
of the year?
Mangione.
Luigi Mangione, yes.
Was that right or left?
That was left. That was, which is why again the left does have 7 to the 6 so far this year, and this
Okay.
is the first time. That
I don't think
they've been
800.
beating the
I don't
right.
think 800 in the past 10 years is going to be anywhere close. I thought the numbers were something when it came to murders like 118 or something like that in
Oh,
totality.
sorry, this wasn't 10 years. This was since 2001, I believe.
Okay, so the point I'm trying to make is, and we'll get to the category errors here, but if we're talking about roughly 100 murders, albeit every murder horrible, right? That's ultimately not a very big problem in our country, in a country of hundreds of millions of people, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so if we would take those murders and let's say they average out to something like 10 a year, as tragic as they are, and you'll admit that this includes stuff like a white supremacist in prison that kills someone, correct? Okay, how is that an instance of political violence that would tip the scale on anything we should be worried about in a political sense more than left-wing riots that we see on a daily basis?
Before you answer that, just quick announcement. Super chats, I will be reading every 30 minutes or so. Is what we're going to do, just for a point of order so I don't keep interrupting the debate. Go ahead, Tom. I apologize. Go ahead.
When it comes to a type of protest that I would want to see, is let's say the government isn't listening, they're not doing what it is that people are asking, and they have to push back a little bit more in order to feel heard. I would hope vandalism is the type of political violence that they would engage in rather than murdering people. And after Trump takes office in 2016 and during his term there, not during Joe Biden's term, and then again during Trump's term, political violence and political murders happen to ramp up on both murders from both the right and the left both times.
Let me ask you this. When January 6th occurred, did you say it was just an act of vandalism?
No.
Why? No one was murdered.
Because it was an attack on our political institutions.
So just to be clear, when left-wingers go out and attack ICE officers, you consider that an act of vandalism. But when January 6th occurred, that's somehow more than an act of vandalism.
No, not when they attack ICE officers.
Well, that happens on a nightly basis.
I don't know if it happens on a nightly basis, but I also don't know that those people aren't being held accountable as you claimed earlier.
What are the riots that you think I'm talking about that only resulted in an act of vandalism and not clashes with law enforcement or police? You think that happened even once?
Obviously, or with ICE specifically. Because
for
I
example,
named earlier Tesla, them keying Teslas or blowing up Teslas.
Okay, so the riots would be different than just, yes, you're right. The left also engages in active
Well,
vandalism.
most of those weren't riots. Most of them were just while businesses were closed, they were going and messing up Tesla.
Like the LA ICE attacks?
Again, are we talking about Tesla?
No. Let me be clear.
Okay.
The Tesla stuff, yes, are acts of vandalism. I'm making a humorous point that it's funny. There are so many left-wing violent actions that we have to be distinct between. Well, the ones where they're just attacking Tesla owners, as opposed to the ones where they're talking Tesla manufacturers, as opposed to the riots they're having against ICE, as opposed to the riots that they're having against sort of law enforcement in places like Portland, etc. I'm talking specifically about the riots that we see occurring almost on a weekly basis, we'll put it that way, on places like Portland. These are absolutely attacking law enforcement. In fact, we can see on almost a daily basis now out of a place like Chicago, a place like Seattle, Portland, or California, that ICE agents are being rammed with vehicles over and over and over. All of this in an attempt to change the lawful executive orders of Donald Trump to deport people that have infiltrated our country illegally. Now, where's the example of right-wingers having any sort of policy effect whatsoever using acts of political violence? All you could point to is skinheads that kill people in prison and some lunatics that horribly, yes, kill people. But it's not a serious attempt to change policy like we see occurring with the left.
You say it's a lawful execution of the law, but the deportations haven't been, which is why the left has lost trust in the Trump administration. When they start shipping off a bunch of people to CCOT and find out that a bunch of them actually had visas or green cards and they weren't supposed to have been deported, like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, there's a bunch of people who were shipped off and deported that were not supposed to be. And when the Trump administration was made aware of this, they said that they weren't going to bring those people back.
Did they?
Some of them they have, yes.
Okay, so let me just see if I follow your train of thought here. If I believe that the executive is doing something that I feel is unlawful, I'm entitled to somehow use an act of violence to prevent that. So, for example, if I thought that my neighbor that's a blue-haired grandma that walked through the velvet ropes on January 6th, when the FBI comes to arrest her, I could box in their cars with vehicles. I could attack them because I feel that it's unlawful. It's a violation of her civil rights.
Yeah, if you felt like the government was coming to kidnap your grandmother and you thought that this was unlawful and you did nothing about it, I would be disappointed.
Do you think that the Trump deportations are unlawful?
So I just named some.
Okay, what act of violence are you taking against them?
Well, they don't engage in like ICE raids around me.
But you just implied I would be a coward if I didn't prevent.
For your own grandmother? Yes.
I said my neighbor who's a grandma, nonetheless.
Okay,
so fuck her, right?
Well, no, I would still, yes.
I
If
mean,
it happened
yeah,
around me, if it happened around me, yes. If I'm in a, like we've seen people inside of stores where armed and unmasked or masked and like, they don't have any markings saying police or ICE or anything, go in and start grabbing people. If I saw just random regular clothed people grabbing somebody and trying to grab them out of a store and drag them out, yes, I would obviously try to stop them. And I think the Second Amendment exists for situations like that.
Do you think that it's predictable? This is good.
Wait, hold on. I got two questions. One, if it was your grandma, would you fight them?
No, probably not.
Okay, let me ask you this. You said you would grab them outside of a store, coming out of a store. Would you do that if it was just yours? I guess, listen, I'm Hispanic, so preface it before I say this, Twitch and YouTube. As a Hispanic, I can say this. Listen, so if you just saw someone you thought was brown and was Hispanic and they were getting grabbed by ICE, would you just intervene, or would you like want to know
with the Second Amendment? He said,
yeah. Would you
with a
shoot
gun?
them? Yeah, I guess what I'm asking is, how do you know it's not local law enforcement enforcing ICE? How do you know that it's not like a drug dealer? I mean, I'm Hispanic. I look whiter than you and Rob. So,
well, local law enforcement does have to present identification when they come in, whereas ICE
not to you as a spectator.
Hold on, let him
yes,
answer.
they do
Mind,
to
Rob.
a
What are you talking about? That's absurd.
Hold on, let him answer. Go ahead, answer, and then we'll go back.
Yeah, of course. If other people or bystanders are watching somebody get kidnapped, I think there is an obvious expectation that they would step in if they see somebody kidnapping people.
That's horseshit.
That I'm supposed to assume that that's a police officer is insane.
You're supposed to stay out of it, right? The law enforcement is they are under no obligation to provide bystanders any sort of credentials whatsoever. And the idea that you're saying that you would use firearms if you saw someone that didn't properly identify themselves to you, you would use firearms to prevent them from a lawful execution or what may well be a lawful execution of law is absolutely fucking insane. I can't believe you're saying that right now.
The fact that you think you would watch plainclothes people that you have no reason to believe that they're officers come in and grab somebody and drag them out, and that you think you should just stand there and watch as an American citizen with no duty to protect your own neighborhood or people around you, that sounds insane.
The
That's
idea,
ridiculous.
when you say plainclothes, I just want to be clear. When you say plainclothes, you're telling me when you see these videos of ICE, you think that those might just be a random group of gangs that are putting someone in that vehicle with lights on top of it?
Yes. Well, I mean, no. Lots of times there are no lights on top of them.
This is absolute.
What are you
batshit
talking
crazy.
about? There are no lights.
If you
on
were
top.
Daniel, do you think Daniel Penny should have been arrested?
Whether or not he should be arrested, I'm glad that he was found innocent. But whether or not they should have adjudicated that in court, probably.
If they arrested him there, would you have stopped them?
No.
Why not?
If they were in plain clothes, I would have. Yeah.
You would have.
Yeah.
You would have. So just to be clear, anytime a plainclothes officer executes any sort of warrant and you say, show me identification, and they don't, you're using your firearm to stop
We're
them.
assuming they're officers. Again, you're presupposing these people
That's
are
right.
officers. Yes, I'm not.
Okay,
Why
so
would I?
then I just want to be clear. You acknowledge that even before Donald Trump and without ICE, there are plainclothes officers all around this country. You acknowledge it?
No.
Of course that's true.
You mean like undercover agents?
Yeah, there
who are
could be
doing an
undercover. There could be
investigation?
people that are
Yes,
it could
but
be
they
off
don't make
duty.
arrests when they're doing those things.
That's
They
not
don't-
true. They absolutely have the authority to do so and have done so.
I don't know where that is, but yes, in Georgia, where I'm from, yes, you cannot be off duty or in a plane.
So I can tell you just one example that I've seen, I guess recently, 5 years ago, which was there were undercovers at a sporting event, a major sporting event. There were people fighting. The undercovers handcuffed them, take them back to the car, right? If you were in my position there, playing a little beer pong, about to go in and watch the game, you pull out your gun and you start taking names. That's what you're going to do?
Obviously, yes. You would.
I mean,
try
that's
to
fucking
stop
insane.
People. It's insane.
It's absolutely
that you
insane.
Just assume that these people have
What if
good
they were?
intentions.
What if they were identified?
Well, I want to ask you, why would you assume that anytime, because now the idea is that people could just come and kidnap people in front of you, and you would just assume they're police officers and let them
I
do it.
suppose that if I would use my context clues, and if it looked beyond a shadow of a doubt that these people were with some sort of law enforcement agency, I wouldn't deign to interfere, let alone with the firearm.
Context
The fact that
clues,
you
sure.
would, the fact that you would with the firearm. Let me ask you this: what if they were identified, but you still thought it was illegal? Would you use firearms to stop them?
No, I'd probably call the police at that point. But in the instant when this person could be dragged off before the police could get there, yes, I would want these people to stay there until law enforcement could show up.
So we're at the 30 mark. I'm gonna read 2 super chats. Then I have a question for you, Rob, based off your last statement. Let me read the first super chat. It is from Johnny MD. What riot? Cities burning. Open your eyes, sir. Rob, number 1. And then we have a second super chat, and it is. Excuse me for a moment. It's from Hall Long Nate. It is easy to be a hypothetical hero living in a world where it's not at your door. Let me ask you this, Rob. You're a conservative. You're on the right. So say you did think something was legal. It's like, I don't know, they kicked in my door on an illegal no-knock warrant. Would I be within my rights to shoot at them, even though I did nothing wrong and they got the wrong house?
I would recommend not. No-knock warrant's a little different.
I didn't recommend not, but
let me explain. No-knock warrant's a little different because you could be startled and not know what was going on. I'm not a fan of them, right?
And that's the wrong house.
This is different. Listen, this is different than this is the same advice that shitty fucking YouTubers give to Black Americans when they're like, if law enforcement pulls you over, tell them to fuck off. You did nothing wrong. You're within your right. And then they get shot.
I would never
That's what happens.
Would
Literally,
never
the
say
advice you're giving right now is going to
Well,
result in
the
someone
reason I
getting
asked you
fucking
that,
killed.
Rob,
That's what's going
is
to
because
happen.
there was a case in Texas that was just decided. It was an African-American gentleman. They kicked in his door. He shot a cop, killed him, but it was the wrong house. I mean, if they kicked in my door, I'm shooting first.
It's a completely different scenario than what we're talking about. If your door burst open and you don't know and you're defending yourself, that's different than if you are aware that it's law enforcement, but you think that you're being arrested erroneously. My advice is to comply and then have your day in court.
Let me read one more super chat and then I'm going to turn it back to y'all. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. Whole long Nate, $10. Like the stream. Idiots. All right, go ahead. Thank you so much for that.
Well, the last thing you said is if you think it's an officer and you're being arrested erroneously, that is not the circumstance that I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who come in who look like regular people who are just dragging somebody off and could be gangsters, could be mobsters, could be
an absolute asinine, absurd position. And again, what we see is so much of arguing with Democrats is them pretending to not understand the fucking truth. There is a 95% chance that when you see ICE, who's wearing these masks, who's wearing the camo, who has handcuffs, who's in this big group, you fucking know that it's a law enforcement action. And what you're doing is
I agree with you on the context clues. I'm saying that these people in plain clothes, wearing camo, wearing belts with tasers and stuff on them, that is very different than some of these videos where it is people who are just walking in and grabbing people, zip tying them and dragging them out.
My advice to you, Tom, is stop being a coward. You know the areas these are occurring in. Go put your fucking big boy britches on and go stop them.
Well, again, my statement was on whether or not you're standing there and watching as a passerby.
But what's the difference?
There's a major difference on whether or not I'm going to go out and look for people who are possibly going to arrest somebody somewhere that I have no idea.
Do you know where these plainclothes actions are occurring?
I know that I see the videos when they get uploaded and that people are standing there asking them, are you guys ICE? Are you guys ICE? Are you guys ICE?
How many times do you think it occurs in this country a year that people in public go into restaurants, grocery stores, and groups of men kidnap people in plain day? How many times do you think that happens a year?
I don't know, but I do know that I've seen a woman getting grabbed inside of a Walmart and dragged out, and numerous guys stopped the people
by law enforcement or by
just by guys standing.
So that happened once. Okay, that's your argument. What groups of people do you think would be likely to do that?
Gangsters, most likely. That's the example that I
cartel members.
Sure.
So you're for the deportations?
Yes, definitely.
You are.
Of course.
Okay. Well, we wouldn't have to worry about these
voted
nefarious...
for Joe Biden, who has the record for a 4-year deportation. So
really?
Of course I'm in favor of deportations.
Because we consider turnaround deportations.
Well, yes, those would also be deportations, but they're stopping people from coming over the border.
They did not. You are aware that under Biden, the border was the worst that it's ever been by any objective measure.
That is the claim. We needed more people, but that's a different topic.
You see, it's very interesting. And like you illustrate something here. I'm glad we decided on this stuff because what you illustrate is that actually, despite all of your fucking hullabaloo, you don't really give a shit about the democratic process. If you don't like the results of it, like someone like Donald Trump and how they're carrying out the law, then you're like, well, I'll stop it with firearms. But the truth of the matter is that you have no fucking right more to do that than I would have to prevent people I thought were engaged in all sorts of unlawful activity under Joe Biden. For example, the people that are getting their doors kicked in for protesting abortion centers is fucking repugnant. And yet I wouldn't deign to suggest that if I was the neighbor with the firearm, I would have opened fire on these law enforcement officers.
But when we're talking about whether or not Trump actually did end up bringing back people who were illegally deported, the fact that he did was after like 2 to 3 months of protests happening day after day.
So what?
So these are things that are actually making changes. These are things that are actually putting
the
pressure
political
on the
violence is working.
I don't know. It's political violence. I said protests. I said protests. You said political violence.
Was there violence occurring? Were there riots in LA?
Well, hold on. Just to be clear, I'm disagreeing when you keep saying the lawful deportations, that when we agree that some of these are unlawful, and when you say afterwards, well, they chose to bring them back after saying they were going to refuse over and over and over, the fact that they say they're refusing is enough for people to get out there and start distrusting ICE and the Trump administration to do things legally and right the first time.
Just to clarify, for my own sake, are you arguing? Oh, and we also got a super chat, so I'll do both. We read super chat. There's no super chat. He just donated money. So thank you for the donate, James. Life Talks. Let me ask you this real quick, Tom. Are you saying that these deportations are political violence? Is that your claim?
No.
Okay. What are you claiming then?
So initially he started talking about the political violence that was being engaged in by the left, saying that this is property destruction and that the amount of property destruction from the left outweighs the small amount of murders from the right. And I was saying that if people are actually unhappy with their government, property destruction is the type of protest that I would rather them engage in than political murders.
I have a follow-up question. Let me read one more super chat from Johnny MD. $10. ICE agents are being targeted by left-wing extremists, their families as well. I have no idea why they wear face masks. Sarcasm. P.S. You're not illegally deporting an alien. They are illegal. To be fair to our leftist friends, I also call people that were, what was it? What's the organization? Antifa, that wear mask pussies. So I can see why they would argue that ICE agents are pussies for masks. But I can see how it would be different. However, let's go to you. One more follow-up question. What would the Trump administration have to do to be political violence? What is the line for you?
For it to be political violence?
Yes, because you're claiming the Iraq makes more political violence.
I don't know, because when it comes to like the government, technically any sort of like action or even like upholding a law is technically a type of political violence. But where I would draw the line on when it becomes like unethical political violence would be whether or not they're following the law. In the case where they are deporting people illegally and then saying they're going to refuse to bring them back. Yeah, I would say that probably is an example of political violence.
Well, okay. Let's
ignore the audience. Just keep going.
Yeah. So let's just do you think there were people detained under every president that were unlawfully detained?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So don't really see much of a difference here other than it's a little pet project to the left.
Really? You don't see a difference between them finding out that they're illegally deporting people and saying, I'm refusing to bring these people back and allowing them to that's not what I said. I said they said they are refusing to bring them back. You keep skipping over that part. They did say that.
All right, let me
Bondi
instruct
said
you.
it numerous times.
Let me instruct
Stephen
you.
Miller said it numerous times. Donald Trump said it numerous times.
Let me instruct you what they said specific. So for those who don't know, Kilmar Agreo Garcia was an illegal that was here that bullshitted to get a claim that he couldn't be sent back to his own country because he was selling fucking taquitos or some bullshit when he was 13 years old in his country of origin and said that some gang was after him. So after he's been here 9 years and he gets deported, which he had a lawful order of deportation, but the paperwork got fucked up and they weren't supposed to deport him back to his home country. Of course, when they generously offered to send him to other fucking places like El Salvador, he didn't care for that either. So we were told that we had to stay here because this guy had some fucking nebulous claim. What happened was once he was deported to El Salvador, right, the United States said that it is now no longer a legal matter in the United States that could be affected by our courts to force the country of El Salvador to have to release someone that they had in prison. That becomes more than just a matter for the legal system in the United States. And that's why the Trump administration was saying, look, we suggested that we could possibly bring him back, but we're not going out of our way to create an international incident by telling Bukele that he has to release this person, which he doesn't want to release. after much hullabaloo and political violence that we saw from the left, which once more proves that the violence from the left is something that they see as being effectual, then they decided to bring him back. All of this is a red herring anyways, because the fact that you might not like how long, for example, wasn't a lot of the charges of January 6 people overruled by courts? One of the specific charges they had?
Before you answer that, I got one more super chat, and then I need a point of order. We got Captain Planet with $10 in one SB. Exclamation point. Thanks so much for the donut. Tom, if you don't mind, or tech team.
Now one step back. Woo.
Thank you,
He's
audience.
sober.
I appreciate it. We like the enthusiasm. It's good. But if you don't mind, Tom, can you bring that mic? You're a quiet talker. I know. Just bring it closer to you. Or if the tech team could turn up your gain or something.
So before we go to the January 6th thing,
that
I think you know you're lying when you talk about what it was that they were talking about, because Judge Zinnes never, ever asked them to go send the military in to bring Abrego Garcia back or anything like that. But you're talking about some geopolitical catastrophe that's going to happen when all they asked them to do was request him back. That's it. That's all they said to do is request him back. And they said no. That is, so when you're making up this whole scenario of what they were actually talking about, you're lying. They refused to request him back.
What you just said there wasn't contradictory to what I said. For example, if the United States requests that Russia does something, is that a diplomatic act?
Sure, but
real quick, can that diplomatic act have political ramifications?
Possibly.
Okay,
sure.
So then should a court in the United States be able to demand that President Trump demand anything of Russia?
If Donald Trump is paying for people to be housed in a prison, he is paying for this country to hold them in CCOT, then yes, he has the ability to make demands for what it is he is and our taxpayer dollars are paying for, of course.
Real quick then, based on that, when Coach Red Pill's fucking killed by these shithead Ukrainians over there, right? And we're paying Ukraine all this money, could a right-wing judge have demanded that Joe Biden demand the release of Coach Red Pill?
Are they paying for him to be housed somewhere
for the entire fucking existence
That's
of the
not
country?
the same thing. We're literally paying for people to be housed in CCOT. It is not relevant. You don't think it is. You don't think it is either. I know you don't think that's ridiculous,
that says,
Rob.
well, if you're paying for the housing of criminals, then you're allowed to have judges influence international policy. Show me the law.
All right, let him answer. Go ahead, Tom.
It is that we have the ability. So if we're saying, hey, we'll pay you to house this person, and then we say, hey, we want them back. Let's just assume for a second that there's a world where he says no, because I don't see that happening. Let's assume.
Go ahead. You finish out, and then I'm going to say something.
And we say, okay, well, then we're not paying for you to house that person anymore. You think they're going to give him back to us now that they're not getting paid for him anymore?
Before you answer, I apologize. Super chat, once again. Thank you, man. This Tom absolutely dominating Holy Liberal. Go ahead, Rob.
It has no ability to determine the legality of it, whether or not they would acquiesce. If Donald Trump told fucking Zimbabwe, you're going to release 5 random prisoners or we're going to bomb the shit out of you, yeah, I suppose they would acquiesce as well. It's irrelevant as to whether or not the courts have the right to tell Trump that he needs to do something foreign policy. By the same token, if Donald Trump would have said, hey, we're not going to send you any more money, Ukraine, unless you release, or Joe Biden would have said, unless you release Coach Red Pill, you think they would have?
Well,
that's simple yes, no.
I don't know anything about the Coach Red Pill situation.
So. There's a guy who's an American citizen that's detained in Ukraine. If Joe Biden says no more fucking money for your country unless you release him to us, you don't think they would have?
Yeah, but
I guess I would argue.
No, because you're
right,
Rob,
because
seriously,
it's irrelevant.
No, it's not irrelevant. Seriously, you think paying like what a couple thousand per person is relevant to like a couple $100 billion per for one person? You think that's actually the same thing?
Real quick,
because when it comes to like if we say that Joe Biden during the election just decided to deport Donald Trump, the idea is as long as he got him out of the country before anybody could stop him, now we can't request him back and we put him in a prison somewhere, and it doesn't matter whether
request. What we said is that the courts cannot tell. A district
court cannot tell the president,
you have to do this.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Policy. And so I'm saying that, yes, if we deport Donald Trump and we put him in CCOT before the election, now you're saying no judge could have told Joe Biden, you have to bring Donald Trump back.
That is what I'm saying.
That is insane.
That is what I'm saying. I suppose big heroes like you would go get those plainclothes people that deported Trump and use your firearm.
I would expect if Joe Biden did something illegal, our courts would expect him to remedy that scenario.
Him accountable, but they can't force the president of the United States to engage in diplomacy.
How can they hold him accountable? He has immunity. There's no accountability.
What does any of this have to do with shit? Anyways,
you just said they they can hold him accountable.
They
You
can
know
hold
they
him
cannot.
accountable for potential crimes. You said he committed a crime. The immunity decision does not mean that the president has full and total immunity. It means that they have immunity for official acts that they take in the scope of the presidency.
Deportations would be
Okay,
under the scope.
under your interpretation, Biden would have immunity there, but they can force him, despite the fact he has immunity, to bring Donald Trump back.
They would force him to request him
How?
back.
He has immunity. He'd say, fuck you. Now what?
Well, correct, but that is the point. That is the point. And
Okay.
if he did that, we wouldn't trust Joe Biden anymore, and we wouldn't trust him to engage in deportations anymore.
If they can't even charge him with a crime, where's your fucking evidence
Right.
that they can force him to do something
Right.
They
diplomatic?
can't
Right.
force him to do anything.
Right. That's my point.
No,
They
it's
can't
not.
force
Your
Trump.
point, you lied and said that they actually did something totally different.
Then I want you to elaborate on that. Bruce B619, Tom getting absolutely wrecked in this debate. Thank you so much for the super chat. Cat Near $10. Tom, what's it like drilling over Mantis as she's currently cheating? What's her plan? Well, that's very rude. But thank you for the money. And then Joseph Newton, good job putting the debates together. Grid. Rob is going to destroy Tom. Props to Tom for doing the live event without solid debaters on both sides. We have no debate. Yeah, I agree with that. It's just a hostile crowd to Rob. Good job for being here. I do have a question though. You just stated, okay, all these things are all stated. You know what? Just never mind. Just go ahead and continue.
Well, what does this have to do with anything?
I just-
All of this
Because
is a red
you
herring.
lied
All of
and
this is
said
it's
that
not,
that what all they were telling them to do was they said that he had to bring him back and they're not allowed to make that request, and that is a lie because they said that that all he had to do was just request him back. That was it.
Show me in the Constitution where it says a district court can force the president of the United States to engage in diplomacy.
When you say force, what do you mean by that? Like there's-
Your argument is that the court said, Donald Trump, you must request him come back, correct?
yes,
Where does the court have that authority?
that the courts are there to uphold the law and make decisions on whether or not
Show me-
something was
show
legal
me-
or not.
Do you acknowledge that they, in your words, gave the president immunity?
Yes.
So you think that he has immunity,
Yes.
but they could force him to take diplomatic
Again,
action?
you say force. I don't think they can force him, but I think
Thank
when
you.
they're
That's it.
telling
That's the
no,
argument.
no, that's not the argument because
is-
that is my point is that he is being told this is illegal and refusing to remedy it. That is my point, and you
It
are
doesn't matter.
conceding. Yes, it does.
It
Your
doesn't
whole
matter.
point is that is not true, and you're lying, and you have just proven my point
That's not-
that I
the-
know
all-
you know you're
the
lying
whole
about
point
that.
was this. The whole point was this. They sent him there. They said, look, we don't have to ask them for him back. We don't have to do it. We can do whatever we want diplomatically. Your argument was the court said he had to request. I said they don't have the right to tell him that. You might not like his decision, but that's what happened. The guy came back because of violence from people on the left like you that are tough guys that say, I'd use my Second Amendment if I saw plainclothes people. And so these violence and the fact that our media covers for this shit, which became a political winner, meant that this fucking piece of shit came back into the country. And then once he was promptly told that he should be deported again, the activist courts over and over and over did everything they could to keep this alleged human trafficker back in the country. Because the truth is, that's
Activist
what you
courts.
people want. Then you post hoc justify the violence that we see in the left by being like, but this was so fucking heinous. Let's forget about Garcia for a minute, and let's forget about your Superman scenario where you're going to swoop in to save people from plainclothes officers. That's not the majority of the violence that's occurring against ICE officers right now. And so what's the relevance to that?
Before you respond, Tom, I'm going to let you respond to everything you just said. However, I feel like we've gotten a little bit far off topic. I would like to come back to the leftist versus right-leaning political violence, which more specific unless you tie it. But I'm going to let you respond to everything you just said, and then if you could tie it back into the original topic a little bit more, I would appreciate it. Go ahead, Tom.
What was your last question again?
The idea of the two scenarios you've outlined, well, they're upset about Garcia and Trump didn't request, and that we're supermen that are stopping plainclothes people. That's not the majority of the violence we see against ICE.
Yeah, so I think it is. Again, if they do not trust ICE to actually carry out lawful deportations, it makes sense that they would eventually stand up to ICE and try to stop them. But when you say things like they're rioting all over the place, the left isn't being held accountable, and the right is being held to a much higher standard, seems to be the exact opposite, especially when we consider the BLM rioters versus the January 6th rioters. The BLM people on average had much more time in prison just off convictions alone. They didn't have some president swoop in and give
That's
them
laughably untrue.
Yeah, no, it is.
You
not.
ready for that word that scares left? Per capita.
I'm saying per person.
Per capita.
Yeah.
How many people on the left rioted during BLM versus January 6th?
Go ahead and finish out, and then I'll let you respond. Go ahead, Tom.
More people.
More people in BLM, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so your argument is there was more total time served because
Average. per person.
Average per person is absolutely untrue.
100%.
Absolutely untrue.
Again,
In fact,
every
the
study on
overwhelming-
this says the opposite.
I would like to hear one. In fact, the overwhelming majority of people that engaged in acts of violence in Black Lives Matter were never even charged.
And again, this is even before Donald Trump comes in and just lets all of them out, which didn't happen for the BLM rioters.
That's because almost no one was arrested.
That's not true.
Over very few.
Over 10,000 people.
May 30th, 2020, right? May 30th, 2020 into May 31st. A bunch of left-wingers attacked the White House, right? They used Molotov cocktails, lasers. They injured some 52 Secret Service members. How many people were arrested?
I don't know how many.
I think one.
I don't think it was one.
Yes, I think it was one.
I think it was one on federal charges from what I remember.
Okay, how many arrested then?
I don't remember.
So if you go back and you realize that the number's under 5, will you say, well, that's fucked up?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, well, I'm telling you it was under that.
Okay.
This is the way it occurred over and over again. In fact, many times, for example, we had those 2 lawyers, where was it, in New York? 2 people that passed the bar that used Molotov cocktails against a police car. They ended up getting like a year. Whereas if some January 6er would have threw a fucking penny at an officer there, they'd have threw him in a fucking gulag until Trump pardoned him.
There are people who had like 10-year sentences. There's people with 5-year sentences. But again, most of the people at January 6th, even the ones who went inside, had I think an average of 3 months in total.
You mean the nonviolent people?
Yeah, even nonviolent.
So you're comparing nonviolent to the violent ones that got arrested in BLM. The very scant few
care if
of
they're
them.
violent. They're
Yeah.
So I apologize.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm so sorry.
No
Go
problem.
ahead. You continue.
Yeah, I don't care if they're violent.
Oh, wait, I'm so sorry. Let me interrupt one more time. We got a super chat just in time. Good job, super. By the way, chat, y'all are doing a really good job when I'm interrupting. There's time in your chat stack. Keep it up. We need the money. Money now, money please. We don't have any APAC backers over here, so I need the money. And by I mean Greg needs the money. And he's not poor. He just spent a lot of money making this event, and he did it for you, the chatters. So yeah, thank you so much for reading the super chat. Gibbs, please don't read this the most convenient time possible for Rob. Well, that's a bitch, because I wish I had read that shit. So, well, thank you so much, Pentuple, and suck a dick. How's that? Anyway, continue.
Yeah, if I'm part of a mob that is helping overwhelm the Capitol Police to make it easier for a bunch of people to charge into the Capitol, and some of those people do have treasonous and insurrectionist expectations once they get in there, if I am part of helping that, especially when everybody's chanting things like hang Mike Pence or stop the steal, then yes, I am part of this action, and they should have had years.
So then everyone that was there May 30th should have got years in prison.
100%.
Okay, but they did. And everyone that's ever been at a riot that talked about killing Donald Trump should have got years in prison.
Possibly, but why is it that Trump's federal government didn't arrest any of those people? Why would that happen?
Well, I find this question interesting because they're cowards, I'll say, because they're worried of the bad optics of it. And because in many of these institutions like the FBI, they were clearly against Trump the entire time he was there. Because your party's lead at the time, Chuck Schumer, in 2016 admitted that because Donald Trump didn't particularly like the FBI, that they would have 6 ways from Sunday at stopping him, which they did the entire time, including illegally spying on him with vice warrants. So yes, because the FBI under Donald Trump that he was supposed to be in charge of was actually fucking corrupt against him and allowed lefties.
Trump was in charge of the DOJ. They could have indicted these people.
You have your fucking cake and eat it too. If Trump would have aggressively went after these people in the election season in 2020, you would have screamed, oh my God, the guy's a dictator. But when he wasn't, you're like, why didn't he arrest them? It's bullshit. We know it.
I don't.
Do you think he should have deployed the National Guard into the lead up of the 2020 election? Or would you have said he was a fascist?
I don't know if he should have deployed the National Guard.
So we should have just left like...
You're talking about January 6th.
No, I'm talking about Black Lives Matter in places like Kenosha, where Trump was offering to send in the National Guard, and the fuckhead leaders of Kenosha were like, no, we don't want that. Then they allowed the violence to get out of control, where a kid named Kyle Rittenhouse had to defend himself and ended up killing someone. Should Trump have overread the orders of the mayor and the governor and sent in the National Guard to prevent that? No, you would have said he was a fascist, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah.
So then your argument is, well, he should have just arrested more people. And you know what you would have said, Tom? Well, he's a fascist.
Well, he didn't do it. He's still a fascist.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, back to the prompt.
Wait, I thought you were.
No, I was.
He was just interrupting you for this.
Oh.
No, I was. No. You asked like 3 questions and then you answered. I was just making sure you have a chance to speak.
Yeah, overall, like when we look at the numbers, and again, it's every single time when we look at studies for violence, when we look at studies for how average time people are locked up, every single time you just, oh, well, I don't believe that. Oh, I just don't think so.
Name me the study that showed that Black Lives Matter, the average Black Lives Matter protester was arrested longer than the average January 6th person.
It was a DOJ
I don't believe it. I think that's absolute bullshit, and we all know it.
Associated Press assessment
absolute bullshit.
As well.
And the fact that you said, I don't care if they're being violent or not, just the fact you were there, that would mean that every time there was an act of violence, that there was considered an unlawful assembly of Black Lives Matter, that you think that every person in that crowd should have got years in prison.
Yes.
And your argument is you think that happened disproportionately more to Black Lives Matter than January 6th.
The amount of time that
it's outlandishly
100%.
laughable, Tom.
Yes, because you don't believe in stats. You don't believe in studies. And every single time we bring up studies or bring up stats, you just hand wave them because you don't believe in anything scientific. You just want to go with your feelings instead. What you saw on Fox News or what you saw on Steven Crowder is much easier to go with because that aligns with your fifis.
So first off, you just said, I think it was DOJ, and neither of us have the studies in front of us. Second, you concede at the outset that many of the organizations that do these studies are full of shit. Remember that?
Sure.
But now it's just me and my feelings. When you say something that everyone in this fucking crowd and 90% of the people watching right now know, are you fucking kidding me? Like the FBI went more aggressively after BLM than January 6th. It's a fucking joke. It was the largest task force in FBI fucking history.
I didn't say that they were full of shit. What I said is that some of them have weird methodology on how they're doing it.
Which makes them full of shit.
Okay. I like other people, like literally when we're talking about the Cato Institute, they think that one's bullshit as well because it didn't include some Antifa guy who shot somebody and killed himself right after, but he never got convicted. The methodology is they're only going with convictions. I think that is the most objective way to go about it.
So just
but even that doesn't align with people's fifis because they remember that one instance.
Hypothetically, right? If that's the case, and we're just looking at political violence, and your argument is law enforcement arrested harsher, more Black Lives Matter people, then the studies would objectively say that the left commits more violence.
They did. It was more Black Lives Matter people, but again, it was more time on average that they spent in prison. But yes, also again, yes.
So then the studies you're referencing do say that in the year 2020, the left committed far more violence, seeing as how they were arrested more.
No, because the studies are on murders, not on instances.
Okay, but the ones that aren't, like CISA, the Prosecution Project, those ones that aren't just murders, they will say in 2020 the left committed more violence. They will not.
No. Every single one that has
that's not just vandalism, Tom. You just told me it's not just vandalism. You said everyone that's at one of these unlawful assemblies should go to prison for years. Surely you don't think anyone commits an act of vandalism?
I'm sorry. If you're just saying they're being at a protest and then there's 10,000 people there and 100 of them start rioting, that all 10,000 should go to prison? No.
That's what you said about January 6th.
Yes.
You said you didn't give a shit if they were violent.
That is very different. So because there are because you know that there's a ton of people who did not go onto private property and stayed protesting. Yes, but they weren't just trespassing. Again, they were part of a group that it has obvious intentions in getting into the Capitol and breaking into the building to stop the election.
If they were there to steal the country, why didn't they? They clearly overwhelmed law enforcement.
They were there to delay the certification of the vote, which they did.
Really?
Yes.
That's all they were there for.
So
they left happy then. We did it. We saved the country.
Different groups had different intentions, but yes.
Different groups had different intentions, but you just said that all of them went in had that same intention.
No, I'm saying that was at minimum the intention, but some of them were there to
Okay, so then why do you think the people were protesting Black Lives Matter?
Why was Black Lives Matter?
Why were they protesting?
Why was Black Lives Matter protesting, or why were people protesting Black Lives Matter?
And it's declared an unlawful assembly, and I'm trespassing. Why am I there?
Well, at the White House, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? That's what I'm asking.
Your implication, are you legitimately going to tell me that January 6th is unique? That's the only time that people that weren't engaged in active violence ought to spend 3 years in prison? But if there's other left-wing acts of violence where there's unlawful assemblies and there's trespassing, that the people in that crowd, somehow we don't say that their motivations align with the rioters?
Yes,
so we don't punish them?
If they are taking part in it, yes, obviously.
Okay.
So if they are trespassing along with other people going into a building, then yes, obviously.
Well, it's not just going into a building.
Just the same as the people with the intent.
If they're on public property and it's considered an unlawful assembly, that would be basically the equivalent of trespassing, correct?
Possibly.
Okay, so then every one of these incidents that was declared because there was a riot, an unlawful assembly, and hundreds or not thousands of people stuck around, all of them deserve years in prison.
I don't believe that you think this is an honest question, because
Of course I
obviously
do.
that's ridiculous. When you are heading towards a Capitol building in a mob all at once, and you just listened to your president for the last week talk about the fact that the election was stolen, you just listened to him for 3 hours on stage talk about the fact that the election is stolen, and then all of you are rushing towards the Capitol where they say they are inside right now stealing the election from him. Obviously, yes, I think they all know what they're going to the Capitol for. Unless you think they went there just to take a tour for some reason while it was closed, that would be insane. Is that what you think, Rob?
I think they were there for a protest because they felt, and probably correctly, that the election was stolen. It was stolen in multiple ways. One, it could be because of the mail-in ballots and fraudulence that could have happened there, but it's also stolen in the fact that our agencies, including the very FBI that you're lauding and saying we need to trust their studies, that all of your studies are contingent upon their arrest records, actually engaged in a double standard of actually promoting bullshit stories against Donald Trump for 4 years and illegally spying on him, while downplaying the actual legitimate story of the Hunter Biden laptop that 51 former intel officials said was bullshit. Both instances are intel agencies. What did they say, Tom? What did they say?
They said
it had the hallmarks of being bullshit.
yes.
And you believe that? You believe that wasn't them being dishonest?
No, if you read it, it literally says we are not making a claim as to whether or not this is valid or not. They literally say we are not making a claim to the validity of this.
I mean, Tom,
wait. You agree they said that, right?
Of course,
because, okay,
of course.
so you just
So if I
lied
go
saying
back
that they said it was
no,
bullshit.
no.
Yes, you lied.
If I go back and watch your videos, you're going to say, yep, yeah, I'm saying nothing here. This is just a bullshit throwaway statement. These former 51, they're not saying anything happened. It's just saying this is something that could be Russian disinformation. That's it. You think that was their intent?
Do you think, looking at it, that it had the hallmarks of Russian disinformation?
No.
No?
I think it had the hallmarks of what the FBI calls Russian disinformation. Do you acknowledge that the person that drafted that letter in emails was saying that they were trying to get that information out before the debate to help Joe Biden?
Yes.
Oh, but they weren't saying anything. They weren't saying anything. It wasn't them being corrupt, trying to influence. You said they didn't say anything. Then why were they rushing it out there to help Biden in the debate if this was just a benign statement that wasn't intended to help anyone?
Because the people had already started running with a narrative without the evidence for it, and so if they had evidence of something that they thought was different,
What fucking word salad is this? What does that have to do with shit?
How's that word salad? You didn't understand what I just said? Was that confusing?
We have about 15 minutes till we go to the closing, so let me just read some super chats real quick. I apologize for this brief interruption. Yeah, we had closings, then we got audience questions.
That changes what I was going to say. That's fine. I thought we were going till 10 and then audience questions.
Oh, well, I mean, we can.
It's all right. I don't care. Whatever we decide.
Don't worry. We'll go as long as it needs to go. We'll go. But anyway, let me read these. I'm trying to do audience questions every 15 minutes. Super chats. Reverse message says 49. Your 7K check is in the mail. Lacham. I don't know what's happening. That's happening. It's loud.
There's a riot out there. There's some right wingers that need to be arrested.
Bastards, bro. I didn't get out here without my guns. Anyway, Cat Meter said Tom get destroyed can feel his embarrassment out here in Australia. The fake country. Australia is not real, so you're not real. PGG says Tom, BLM did over 1.2 billion damages that include private property. Damage you want to compare to January 6th, very illusional. Mod Check says that's $20 billion worth of damages, but that's the year over there. Johnny MD, $10 says, Rob, can you bet you can only beat the dog for so long? I do have one question. Oh, one more super chat. Fucking Button says, Tom is right, and BLM was just fighting a good fight for injustice. That's why they destroyed my store. They also destroyed the Soul studio with the Black Neighbors recording studio. Yeah, so. And
I didn't say that, just to be clear.
And then we got TD, thank you so much. Sent 5, Unreasonable Man, gift membership. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll go to 9:45 and then we'll go to audience questions.
Let's go.
If that helps. So I guess my question to you is: you said earlier, and maybe I'm just dumb, but I'm gonna vouch for us dumb people. You said earlier you would
finally agreement.
You would shoot. Hey, that's good. I'm glad y'all gonna agree on one thing. You said you would take up your Second Amendment arms against the unidentified.
Just to be clear, I don't have the Second Amendment right, but continue.
I do, so I'm a little interested to see what your response is. Okay, it's the same thing with the January 6th. If they honestly believed the election was stolen, would you agree that they have their Second Amendment right to go and try to overthrow the government?
100%.
If it comes out,
you all agree on something.
and it comes out that one of the states was fraudulent, let's say that comes out, right? Would you then say January 6th was justified?
No, because one state wouldn't have overturned the
But
election
nonetheless-
and still wouldn't have changed whether or not the election was stolen from Donald Trump, which was the difference.
But it would acknowledge that the people that were in charge of investigating it were fucking incorrect.
If something came out contradicting what the analysis said, yes. But when we're talking about whether or not like the right is violent, I can't name 2 or 3 of these. There's obviously the Hortman one. There is January 6th, but then there's also the pipe bombs that were sent to Obama, Hillary, Kamala.
Pipe bombs sent to Obama and Hillary.
Yes, Obama, Hillary, Kamala.
Oh, you mean
Joe
years
Biden.
ago, not January 6th. Okay.
Yes, there's
All right.
a Congress member that is crippled and can't.
Well, what I
walk
talked about
anymore.
was like right-wing riots. So we acknowledge this, that any political party, politician, etc., can have a fringe lunatic that does crazy shit, right?
Correct, but I think that it is the rhetoric on the right and from Donald Trump where he does encourage people to be violent. He encourages ICE to be more violent. He tells people at his rallies to punch lefties who are protesting.
Well,
and yelling and things like that.
so let's go through this. One, right? You've already said that you justified the violence of the left because they're distrusting ICE because they don't like Donald Trump and think he's having them do things that are illegal, correct?
I wouldn't justify all violence against ICE, obviously.
But you gave the justification. You said it's no wonder they're doing this. They don't trust ICE because they're engaged in illegal activities. In fact, when Gibbs asked you, you said you would call this unlawful political violence being engaged by ICE.
I'm saying that the Trump administration has engaged in unlawful deportations and that it makes sense why people would stop trusting them.
Okay, so is that any sort of justification for the violence that we see against ICE?
Probably not. No.
If I'm at an ICE protest and I watch people throwing rocks and tear gas at ICE and I'm standing there, you would acknowledge that I deserve to spend years in prison, correct?
I think that they would have to have evidence that like what it is that's happening in that instance is an unlawful deportation. But
No. Like, for example, I could show you night after night after night in Portland where people show up outside ICE facilities and throw tear gas at ICE, and there's crowds of like hundreds.
It's not happening night after night.
Sure it is. It's happened at least 20 times in the past year.
I would say maybe
Okay, but you would
3.
say if me and you are there and we're like, fuck ICE, and then like 5 of these miscreants out here, they start fighting with police and throw tear gas, and we stay there and we're like, yeah, fuck you, ICE, then we deserve years in prison, right?
No, not
Why? What's our intent for still being there?
Because if the cops come out and we stand in line with those people and are like helpful in obstructing them from arresting those people or stopping them, then yes, then at that
Well,
point.
why is that relevant? Let's just say that there are people that are attacking the ICE facility or the ICE officers there, and we stand in solidarity with them.
It's relevant because we're analogizing this to January 6th, of course, right?
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So
then your argument
when
is
it comes
so the
to-
real
when
quick,
it
so
comes
your
to the
analogy
mob
is that January 6th they were coming out of the Capitol trying to arrest people and the crowd was there to prevent them. That's your argument.
Yes, I'm saying that
No, that's not what
I'm
happened.
saying that the amount of people that were there made it to where it was impossible for them to actually deal with the crowd, because when you watch the videos of them grabbing officers, dragging
So
them
I just
into
wanna
the
be
middle of the
clear.
crowd.
I apologize. I do have to interrupt. We got 2 more major super chats. So from Aquanote 50, thank you so much. When I was a lifeguard, kids would be running on the pool deck. I would shout, "Run faster!" Why? Because the smart people look at you in confusion because they know what is correct is to do while the others slip. Tom, run faster. And then we have one more super chat from Hundo. Hey, listen, if you're going to super chat, do it with a Hundo. We appreciate it.
Shotgun another beer.
I
Let's
will.
go.
Thank you so much. I'm absolutely going to shotgun a beer immediately after I finish reading this and then get back to debating. Another Rob W. Too easy. Chair could have won this. Just Gerald. And let me make sure we didn't get anything else. Thank you so much. All right, go back to you. Y'all get back to it.
The reason I'm saying it's like you're equivocating. What you want to do is what the same lefties always do. But January 6th, it's the worst ever. It's super bad. And when you get to the specific details of what you're saying, now you're changing to, it seemed before you said, if they're in there, there's only one purpose. That's the only reason. I'm saying, well, wouldn't that be equivalent if I'm in a crowd watching them attack?
I didn't say there was one purpose, and I didn't say any
You
of that.
said that at a bare minimum, they were all in there with the purpose of trying to prevent, they were with this. Okay.
Yes.
So then would you say at a bare minimum that if I'm standing with people attacking ICE, that I'm co-signing on to them attacking ICE?
Again, yes. If you are standing there with the cops coming out and you are standing there in line with them, that
you're
this
unaware
would be
that this occurs
obstruction.
almost on a weekly basis in Portland, in LA, in Chicago against ICE officers. You're unaware.
Yes, I'm unaware that happens on a weekly basis.
So then
I don't think anybody is aware of
So
it.
I think that's impugning sort of the studies that you're claiming to read, that you don't know what you could pick up your fucking, you could pick up like any sort of X account or anything like that and see examples of this occurring on a nightly basis?
I literally stream it on almost a nightly basis. I've donated to the people wearing the crazy costumes.
You've
out there
donated
and
to the
everything.
terrorists.
Well, they're not terrorists. They're
Uh-huh.
literally standing out there every single night. We've watched one night where, yes, they threw tear gas, they threw fireworks,
Okay,
and
so
shit like that.
People define terrorist.
It's somebody who is trying to enact fear or violence for political or religious purposes.
How about you? What's your?
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Okay.
Non-state actors using violence or intimidation to
was the
affect
frog
political or
guy-
culture.
Let me ask you, was the frog guy that got sprayed? Was he a terrorist?
Yes, if he was attacking law enforcement because he was doing so in order to affect political change, that would be an act of domestic terrorism. Agreed?
Would you agree with that?
If he was attacking law enforcement, I don't
All right,
know if
go
that's
ahead.
the case. But
Sorry, I just wanna be
So
clear
you're
for
claiming
all
you
those.
didn't see that?
the
You
frog
didn't
guy?
see, like in Portland all the time, them throwing tear gas back at ICE, them clashing with ICE. You haven't seen that.
Again, I've seen it on like 2 occasions. That's about it. I have not seen it night
It's just
after night,
bullshit.
week
It's either
after
you're
week after
willfully-
you're claiming.
Either you're willfully ignorant or you're just bullshitting us. I mean, I don't know, Tom.
I
maybe-
say the same on
members
every
of the
single
audience,
study
send
that we've
Tom
brought
some
up,
fucking
yeah,
clips
so
on
far.
that. What's your X account? We'll get some people to send you some fucking clips. And then aren't you going to be ashamed that you sent terrorists fucking money?
First off, you're saying that the people who were there in costumes were doing this.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why they're wearing the costume. One, to make it look playful so dumb fucks like you go,
Yes.
oh, they're in a frog costume. They couldn't engage in violence. And second, because it works as a mask for them.
Well,
That
Eric
was the
Pepper
reason.
spray.
Yes,
Stop
the
that.
reason is because it is a mask, and 2, because they wanted to have a peaceful protest to where they
Agreed,
wanted
that's
it
not
to look less violent, like Antifa people with black bloc and their faces covered and everything like that. And so that is literally the reason
talk-
and
Well, it's
the
also got
mission
built-in air
statement
filter, to be
for
clear.
these people.
That helps.
Okay, let's talk about this. Can you name me an example where there have been left wingers that try to speak on campus and right wingers have used violence to prevent them?
No.
Can you name any left wingers that have used violence to prevent right wingers from speaking on campus?
Yes.
How many could you name?
Like 3.
3.
Yeah.
What, in this week?
No, but
Cam Higbee.
Cam
Turning
Higbee,
Point
that did
USA.
not happen with
It
Cam
didn't
Higbee.
happen to Cam Higbee?
No, they didn't prevent. Those people did not prevent.
They
him from
chased him
speaking.
off and then smashed.
He
Then
had already been kicked off by security because he didn't have a permit to do anything there.
him. Oh, in public property, in a public
It was
university?
not public property. It was not public property. It was on university property. You have to get a permit to speak there,
Okay,
just
let's say
as
that's
Charlie
true.
Kirk
Let's
does,
say-
just as Stephen
Let's say that's
Crowder
true.
does.
Let's say that's true. Did they vandalize his property on the way out? Did they attack his car?
Before he was on his way, I don't know about his car. I know that they did grab his signs and break.
And they
those,
smashed,
and
they
that's-
threw shit at his car and they prevented his car from aggressing.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, can you show me the equivalent of the left that occurring?
No, I don't think we're
Okay,
as,
Turning Point
offensive
USA.
or much of a threat.
Turning
as you
Point
guys,
USA.
So obviously not.
What's that?
I don't think we are as offensive or as much of a threat as you
Right.
guys.
It's interesting. You said about Trump's language. You call us Nazis, fascists, racist, right? All these things. Do you think that would inspire people to use acts of violence?
Maybe.
Do you think Trump acts as a Nazi?
No, not a Nazi.
Do you think that the left says it?
I'm possibly.
Do you
sure.
think Trump's a fascist?
Yes.
Do you think that we should use violence to prevent fascism?
Not necessarily. No.
Do you think there's times you would say yes?
Of course.
And do you think there are many on the left that would agree that we should use violence to prevent fascism?
Yeah, of course.
So do you think it would be inciting violence to call someone like Charlie Kirk or Donald Trump a fascist?
I don't think it's inciting violence to say what is true. No.
Okay. Can you explain to me how Charlie Kirk was a fascist?
By being one of the most ardent supporters of Donald Trump.
Define fascism.
Fascism would be a ultra-nationalist and authoritarian ideology or way of doing things. Technically, it's more of a tool to get things done for like an autocratic sort of government by a
So
machismo
authoritarian by
populace.
being authoritarian, but they like the country. They're nationalists.
The
You said authoritarian to be
ultra-nationalist.
autocratic. That means
ultra-nationalist is not the same thing as a patriot.
Hold on, just to clarify, is there an economic component to fascism?
There's an economic fascism, but I wouldn't say that they necessarily.
forget about the ultra-nationalism. Your problem.
Do you agree with that? Is there a separation between economic fascism?
I think fascism is colloquially used as a word for people we don't like by the left. That's how they define it.
That's
you define
ridiculous.
fascism.
I would say the fascism usually is a conglomeration of political and corporate power in order to act authoritarian policies. Traditionally, it's been done usually in a way that would be something like National Socialist, it's a left-wing movement, would be my
The reason
interpretation.
why I'm interrupting now, and this is mainly because I'm selfish, and I've
We
been
know.
called fascist many times recently, and I feel like I'm pretty not fascist because I'm pretty economic libertarian, and so how
You're a fashionist.
Yeah, hey, this guy knows. So I guess my question to you, Tom, since you're the one putting this claim out there, is how important is the economic aspect of fascism to claiming this? Because
I don't think it's all that important at all. I
Okay.
think that like the populist aspect of it is more like relevant.
Okay,
because
here's the question. I forget about the economic
Yeah, that's
part,
fine.
right?
That's
Like,
fine.
okay, you said that it's authoritarian policies for an autocratic system. Forget about the nationalism component of it. Is that in itself bad?
Sure.
Okay, so when you define what you mean authoritarian policies for autocratic leadership.
Trump would like to have full power over the
Does he?
government. No, he
He has
can't.
almost none. In fact, less than almost every president.
I would say he has more than almost. every
Explain.
president.
He's sabotaged by almost the entire, his first term, he was sabotaged by almost the entirety of people that worked in the executive branch underneath him.
Mhm.
He has judges that fuck with him more than any. His win rate in the Supreme Court's like over 90 something percent. So we see these judges that are constantly stymieing him. If he was really an authoritarian, then what we would see was he wouldn't have been able to have a government shutdown. He would have did whatever the fuck he wanted. He was incapable of doing that.
So first off, the fact that he has so many cases going to the Supreme Court is because he is doing things that no other president has done, and he's able to.
He
do
gives
them
a shit
lot
about
of
people.
times.
Right.
He's able to do them a lot of times up until the Supreme Court decision is made. Also, the
Does the
ones
Supreme
that
Court
are
agree with them or
more-
not?
Sometimes, yes.
How many times? Majority?
I think the majority.
Okay,
yes.
do you think it's a problem? Would you say that illustrates that he's not as authoritarian as you suggest, that he's stymied by unelected district courts so many times that then the Supreme Court has to overrule them?
No, because a lot of times I disagree with the Supreme Court decisions.
Oh,
especially
so
when
because
he's
you disagree
nominated
with the court
3 of
says,
them.
then you say Trump's a fascist. He's authoritarian because even though he's going through the legal mechanism that the court agrees with, you disagree with the court decision, so he's fascist.
No, I think that it's pretty obvious that if you try to make a law that is, again, it makes it to where you can't burn the flag that this is anti-freedom of speech. I think it's pretty obvious that if you try to say that you're the only ones who are allowed to have a say on what the law says, that's probably obviously pretty
Well,
authoritarian.
he can say what he wants, but whether or not that happens is different. I'm
Sure,
assuming, if I remember,
wait,
you didn't know.
no, because I'm saying that he is fascist, not that he's capable of enacting fascism as the government, but that he himself has a fascistic ideology and would like to do that.
Good.
But
2
he's
points.
not capable.
2 points. What did you have to say about the Twitter files and the fact that we saw so many executive and agencies pressuring social media to censor conservatives?
We didn't.
That's right. That's number one. So the idea of authoritarianism is bullshit. Your authoritarian is when a bunch of judges fuck with Trump constantly and he wins at the Supreme Court. I still say it's authoritarian because I don't like the court. But when we see the actual evidence of all of these NGOs and executive agencies that were cooperating and pressuring social media to censor people on things like COVID and shit like that, you're perfectly fine with it. That's number one.
You know, when it comes to pressuring, they actually have to have some sort of punishment for them if they don't do what it is.
Yes,
that they're
Elizabeth
told.
Warren and the Democrats were out there recommending taking away Section 230 all the time. They constantly, and in fact, not only that, we can see right now that this occurs because they know that their allies in the European Union are threatening to like fine places like X billions of dollars if they don't comply with the rules that the EU say. So the carrot stick approach is one, you could be buddies with the Biden administration, right? Or second, we're going to have our Democratic allies out there saying we need to pressure. In fact, we see from the people at Twitter and I believe at Facebook, them saying, we thought it was fucked up. Like, I think it was Zuckerberg himself said that all of a sudden they're saying we're killing people. And there's all this public pressure against us because Democrats publicly saying this shit.
So the coercive aspect is that the Biden administration pressured them, but the Biden administration didn't actually threaten any sort of punishment. It was Elizabeth Warren and totally other groups of people that did it that aren't part of the Biden administration.
Those of us that aren't idiots understand
ridiculous.
that the government works in tech. So just to be clear, if Donald Trump never says another word and Ted Cruz goes out and says, listen, motherfuckers, Trump's going to throw your asses all in the gulag if you don't do X, you'd say, perfectly reasonable. It's not Trump doing that. And if Trump's team's then reaching out to social media like, hey, did you hear what Ted Cruz said? Anyways, that's not us.
No, but I would still think it was wrong. And you do agree that they were threatening to take away Section 230 before Biden was in office and even before Trump was in office.
Yes, I absolutely.
Yes, so that is not specific.
No. You're absolutely right. The Democrats and in fact some establishment Republicans have been constantly trying to control the narrative and threatening social media companies that if they don't comply with them, that their special privileges will be taken away and they will be punished. Yes, the Biden administration did that. Will you acknowledge that it was conservatives overwhelmingly or people critical of the Biden administration that were targeted?
Targeted by what?
The censorship that occurred on social media?
Yeah, I would say it was.
Would you acknowledge that there was at least some form of suggestion from NGOs in the Biden administration to censor these people?
the conservatives specifically, or that they should censor people who are putting out COVID misinformation that
And
just
they-
so
but
happen
the-
to be conservative?
The information they were talking about was what they called disinformation, which they were wrong about, right?
They were wrong.
Okay, what weren't they wrong about?
What will you would have to tell
Where
me?
did the
what you
virus
think
come
they
from?
were. The wet market.
It did.
Yeah.
That's not what our intel
Or so-
agencies say.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes,
They
it
say
is.
now the intel agencies say that it's most likely that it came from the Wuhan lab.
One person from the intel.
That's
agency
not
said
true.
That
That's-
is true.
That is
That
not
is
true.
not
That
the
is
opinion-
absolutely
that
not
is
true.
not the
Who's
opinion
the
of the
person? Who's the
CIA?
one person then?
I don't remember his name. He
Right.
testified in front of Congress.
Stop. All right, well, we're gonna let me read super chats. We're at 31. You only have about 15 minutes before we get to closings. Let me read the first super chat here, and then we're gonna get away from the Wuhan because I would like this to stay monetized. Reverse massage.
That's the one thing you can't talk about.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
They unbanned Sneeko.
Hey, listen. I'm just moderating. All right. If y'all don't like it, I got 2 words for you. Get fucked. Anyway, let me read these super chats. Then I'm going to turn it loose for the next 15. Guys, if you want to super chat, now's the time. I'm not going to read any more super chats for the next 15 minutes. We're in the home stretch. At 15 minutes, we're going to go to closings, and then I'll read super chats. Then we'll go to openings. So that's how it's going to be. Super chats won't be read from now till the closing. After closing. So let me read them now. So get
You guys send them super chats. They,
Yes,
they
just
did
send us.
pay a lot of money to put this on. Y'all send them a lot of super chats.
Thank you so
please.
much. Yes, he's right. Listen to that guy. Kane from Command and Conquer is telling you, send us super chats. That's a good joke. I'm sorry. I love you. Anyway, reverse massage says Tom Funds terrorist. Listen, I look like Majin Buu, so I can make the insult jokes. Catmere says for $10, greed Tom's dumb. Who feed for the costumes who did a fund me to raise money to buy them some. Man, they're really angry at you, Tom. I don't know.
He
why.
got
you-
banned.
Would you get pissed at me
He
if I
got-
said I need a translator to understand what you're saying?
Yeah, it's
No,
no.
it's-
That is good for his chats each time he mumbles them. But this is also the same person who came to my chat lying, saying that you were saying that like I was going to do a horrible job moderating
I
you
said
and
this?
Destiny. No, Rob saw somebody
Oh.
super chat into my chat, and he came back. He's like, "Catmere, why
To be
didn't you
fair,
say
to
this?
Rob,
You're just making
though,
shit up."
I also need a translator to understand myself most of the time. So anyway, to Wade Bobs, to the Lord of the Lash, another common W. Thank you so much. Let's go another one. Now Joe says neurons. Is your community the neurons?
The neurons.
All right, that's a good one.
You can be
Hit
an
the like.
orbiter, but no neuron.
Yeah, and listen, my neurons aren't firing. That's why I can't speak. Anyway, hit the like, get some water, subscribe, send in super chats. I think there's one more. I apologize if there's not, chat. All right, go ahead. Listen, chat, we're not going to read any more super chats for 15 minutes. So get them in. They're going to fight, and then we're going to redo closes and read. Go ahead, guys.
All
You're
right,
good.
I'll just say this since we only have 15 minutes. I'll just say this.
Well,
It
we got more
seems-
than that.
I know, but it seems to be your suggestion is you acknowledge that people could get fired up and want to commit active violence against fascism. You just say that it's an appropriate label to issue to Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. You said in a tweet that Democrats didn't kill Charlie Kirk, Trump did. Explain?
Well, in the same way that I'm talking about the fact that Donald Trump has incentivized violence on his side, we went over a number of quotes that he gave earlier that obviously directly and explicitly incentivize violence. He even, after Charlie Kirk was killed, he said that when the left engages in violence, it's because they're evil, but when the right does it, it's because they want good things.
Okay, that's what you're exactly saying about the left.
I wouldn't say that as the president.
So you acknowledge that you're basically saying the same thing that you criticize Trump. You just think he shouldn't say it as the president.
Yes, you acknowledge that you're holding Donald Trump to the standard of a 13,000 subscriber YouTuber.
No, it's not that I'm holding him to your standard. I'm getting you to admit that you fall through the same criticism you're saying of him.
If I was the
I think that
president,
Trump-
I wouldn't say that.
I think that Trump,
I promise you.
I think that Trump is largely correct, that the giant elephant in the room is that the left engages in violence all the time, and the media and the public narrative that the Democrats are able to control downplays that every fucking single time. Every time. And so the point he's trying to make is these fucking lefties engage in, for example, the reason he would say shit at rallies like, yeah, beat that person up. The reason is because almost every fucking time the guy at a rally, lefties showed up and committed active violence against right-wingers. Can you show me one Kamala Harris speech, one Joe Biden speech, one Hillary Clinton speech where large groups of right-wingers showed up to intimidate and use violence against the lefties that wanted to see them?
No, I don't know a lot of protests where the guy who he told them to hit was not using violence either. And there are people who show up to Kamala protests who do chant and yell over her the whole time.
There was one instance where he flippantly said, "Someone drag him out or whatever, I'll pay your legal bills." That's opposed to Kamala Harris, who you voted for, promoting a bail fund for people that burned down a police precinct.
And no, there were 3 different instances. One, he said drag him out. And another one, he said someone ought to hit that guy. And then there was another one where he said...
Did he promote a bail fund for people that just burned down a police precinct?
No.
That was Kamala.
But she also was in favor of bail reform overall. That was not a rare thing that she was in favor of people not having to pay for bail.
So just to be clear, you were acknowledging that she knew that this bail fund was for people that just burned down a police precinct.
I'm pretty sure the group that does that bails people out all the time.
Okay, so then you acknowledge that there was an act of violence committed by left-wingers that literally used political terrorism to attack a police precinct. The reason for that would be to change policy or culture, and that Kamala Harris immediately bails them out. Did she suggest bail reform with January 6ers?
No.
Why not? I thought she wanted bail reform. Why wouldn't she use her bully pulpit to say, hey, I'm so committed to the issue of bail reform, even January 6ers we let free?
In the specific instance that you're talking about, they did round up tons of people that were on video that hadn't done anything, and they were arresting and asking questions.
The truth is
makes sense to an extent.
The truth is she liked that cause. That's more of a... In fact, if you want to go even further, did you know that when Donald Trump was moved to a bunker because on May 30, left-wingers attacked the White House and injured 52 Secret Service agents, that one of the left's big attacks against him was calling him bunker bitch? Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think of that? You smiled.
Well, because that... I think
you think it's funny.
I do. I think it's funny because
they tried to kill the president of the United States and he had to be moved to a bunker, and your party laughed at him and made fun of him for that. Then they cry fucking crocodile tears because some dude took a lectern on January 6th.
Yeah, from my understanding, I don't think a whole lot of people got inside of the building. Yes, they already put him in the bunker well before any real damage.
They thought it was serious enough that he had to be moved, and people like you mocked him for it.
Because he denied that he went to the bunker.
So what did you expect him to say? Like, be a puss? Come out and say,
oh, so you're saying that it's a puss for him to go to the bunker. Okay.
I'm saying what you want is a leader defiant in the acts of political terrorism against them. So he's going to come out the next day defiant. But the people that are in charge of his safety thought it was so significant they moved him to a bunker. By the way, they had the right to do so. I don't know if you remember, they tried to fucking assassinate him twice going into the election. Remember?
Well, to be fair.
Now, you say they. Some of you
last
guys
point.
Instead.
Your fucking president, Joe Biden, a week or so after that, was quoted in media sources telling Trump that he needs to go back to his bunker. How isn't that more of an incitement to violence than anything Trump did post January 6th?
Saying to go back to your bunker.
Yes, making fun of the fact that left-wingers just chased Donald Trump by using violence against law enforcement officer, and his own Secret Service had to move him to a bunker, and the man that would then become president for Democrats mocked him for it.
It's because he lies about it. That's not, you're totally mixing that up, saying that they're like incentivizing people.
He never
to
said he didn't go to the bunker.
Yeah, he did. He said at first that he didn't go to the bunker. Then later he said that they made him go to the bunker and he didn't want to.
As a moderator, I don't give 2 fucks about if you went to the bunker. All the presidents go to the bunker. Let me ask you a different question to you, Tom, just in the same vein. What about when
I think we're overlooking the significance of this moment.
No. Just hear me out. Just let me ask a question, and then if you object, you can object afterwards, and I'll give it to you. But in the same vein, Biden also said he wanted to take Trump out back and beat him. Is that not? I feel like every president goes to the bunker, but like I haven't heard any president before say he would take somebody out back and beat him. Is that not the most egregious amount of violence called for by a president on another political opponent in recent memory?
Yeah, if he said that, of course, I've never heard that. And even when I've been in these debates 100 times, every single time I've asked for examples of things like that, never heard that one before. So
would you acknowledge that the Colorado court? Would you acknowledge that a Colorado court tried to take Trump off of the ballot because they had said he engaged in an insurrection, correct? Mm-hmm. And the reason that he engaged was because of his language.
Yeah.
And evidence they used was him saying things like "fight like hell."
That's how incitement works. Yes.
Okay, so then how wouldn't it, if Trump would have came out after January 6th and said, yeah, that bitch AOC had to crawl under her desk, would that have been used as evidence that he was inciting and engaging in an insurrection?
No.
Why not? You don't think that if Trump came out after January 6th and mocked the actual politicians that were hiding under their desk, that wouldn't have been used by the Colorado court to say he was engaging in an insurrection?
No. Why would
You're
it
so
be?
full of shit.
Explain why it would be. I've
That's
asked you
so
numerous times.
laughable.
Yes, it is laughable. It's a ridiculous.
So your
argument.
argument is
no,
they
Don't keep talking.
Okay.
And answer the question. Why would it be?
Because they use things that were so benign as him retweeting someone saying the cavalry's coming and him saying we need people like Matt Gaetz in Congress that fight, not people like Mitch McConnell that don't. That was used as an example of engaging in an insurrection. But you're telling me that if Trump came out after January 6th and was like, ha ha, these Democrats had to hide under the desk, the Colorado court would have said, well, clearly that's not like aspirations or allusions to violence.
Because you're taking the fight like hell statement as though that's all they used, where it was actually after he had been tweeting for a week saying that the election was stolen. He says that Mike Pence and other senators are not doing their job and that they're turning on him and that they're all in there right now stealing the election from him.
Okay.
Then he says, yes, we need to fight like hell. Would it matter if
what Trump was saying was true? Would it have still been engaging in an insurrection?
Yes, but it would have been justified.
So then would you acknowledge that the people, the insurrection, how do you define it real quick?
An insurrection?
Yes.
It's like an act of violence to stop an official proceeding from government or...
What about an act of law enforcement? Would it be an insurrection?
No, not like from like a police officer or something.
What if you wanted to prevent the official policies of an administration? Like their deportations? To stop, you mean like ICE? Yes,
no,
to stop.
Call that
I would love to see where you get your definition of insurrection. Almost no lefty I've talked to has used that. Neither did the Colorado court. It would still be stopping an official proceeding of the United States if their official proceeding is to use their law enforcement to affect deportations. And there's an institution of people that are actively trying to prevent that using violence or intimidation.
I watched you talk to Destiny and Pisco, and both of them used that definition. So that is
both of them used the definition I'm talking about, not you.
No, they literally said.
Let me remind you.
They literally said you asked them both the same question, that if they were engaging in violence against police officers, would that count? And they said no, because it would have to be some official law or something.
Destiny, in his debate with Andrew Wilson, actually said that there were 4 components, as did Pisco agreed with this. The 4 components to insurrection, as illustrated by Bowden Paulson, both of which were constitutional lawyers, I believe, that were instrumental in the drafting of the removal of Donald Trump in the Colorado order. They said that the 4 parts of an insurrection were as follows. 1, it had to be for a public purpose. 2nd, it had to be a gathering of more than like one person. 3rd, they had to use violence or intimidation. And 4th, that it had to stop and interfere with like an actual act of law enforcement.
Is a public or
let me finish.
Like
so Destiny said that if under his definition, which is what you're talking about, that you're lying and saying literally, he literally said, if 2 hippies shoved a cop because they were protesting weed laws, that's an insurrection. Both have acknowledged, by the way, that the actions against ICE, many of them have been insurrections post the election of Trump.
I asked him if that was an insurrection, and he said no.
Are you dumb or are you lying?
I literally had a conversation with both of them on my channel about that exact example.
You're so full of
and
shit.
Talked to Destiny about why he refused to acknowledge that example.
You're so full of shit. He acknowledged it was an insurrection, Tom.
He did it. He said even if they set the place on fire, that it still wouldn't be an insurrection unless
I
it was
don't know
the
what
building
to say.
on
Unless
fire.
he lied to you and you were too
I
fucking
watched
stupid.
it, and I talked to both of them about it.
You're lying. Then you're lying, or they lied to you, or you're a fucking idiot. Either way, you're classic lefty, right? Point is that what we can see is what the left's doing by almost any metric qualifies as an insurrection, and it's being engaged in more by Democratic politicians that are constantly demanding or being people that are detrimental to ICE. So why are you supporting a party that engages in insurrection? And if it is ruled that that qualifies as an insurrection, right, would you say then that it's a stronger connection that these Democratic politicians that are actively against ICE are engaging in it more than what Trump did and therefore should be removed from office?
All right, perfect. I think you're going to answer, and then we're going to go to closing. So don't respond after that. Save it for the closing. Go ahead and answer it. We're going to do closings. We'll each get 5 minutes. You started, so you're going to go first.
Okay.
Go ahead, and then I have some analysis after that before we start.
No, obviously not, because it's pretty obvious that one administration, the Trump administration, actually is engaging in unlawful deportations and actually is purposefully choosing to ignore the law time and time again, which is what these people are protesting against. Whereas, as I said, if Donald Trump and the people who engaged in an insurrection on January 6th had actually, if the election was actually stolen, I would have supported them doing that as well. But because they lied over and over and over and over about the election being stolen, they did incentivize all of these people to go do that. And that is why it was way more unjust, is because they lied in order to get people to engage.
Do you mind if I have just one little last quick
you
question?
respond. I'll give you. Yeah, go ahead and ask the question, and then I'll let her respond. And then we're gonna go to.
You said it doesn't matter if it was truthful or not, though, whether or not it was an insurrection, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. If Trump gets assassinated by a group of people, is that an insurrection?
No,
It's not?
no.
If a bunch of people want to overthrow the government and they assassinate Donald Trump?
Sure, yes. If a bunch of people like run inside the
Okay.
White House and
So
assassinate him,
you
yes.
think that you acknowledge that they're trying to kill him and assassinate him because they're calling him a fascist?
When you say they, who's they?
A bunch of people?
I'm sure those people exist
talk about-
Okay.
somewhere.
So then the last question I have is, you say that that's true, right? So is it okay?
No.
Okay. So then you acknowledge the left, the violent left, have engaged in attempts on Donald Trump's life because they use rhetoric that you push.
Again, I don't agree that just because I call him a fascist, rightly so.
But if they kill him,
that-
haven't you engaged in an insurrection?
No, because just the same as if I say that the government is allowing abortions, I'm sure that there's people on the right that exist that would want to go and blow up an abortion center to stop that from happening. Or if I keep calling it murder, saying that they're murdering
that's-
babies, this is
that's
more
not
likely
the point.
incentivizing
The point
people.
is, you said it doesn't matter if it's true or not. If you say
That
something,
is what I'm saying. Yes,
Listen.
that is what. No. You listen. That is the point that I'm making. Is that because I am pro-life and I do think it is murder, that just by me calling it murder over and over, even if it'll incentivize some crazy person to go do something like that to stop the murders from happening, that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop calling it murder.
it doesn't matter if whether or not that means that you're engaged in an insurrection. If it doesn't matter if what he was saying about the election was stolen was right or wrong, and you're saying it was proof he engaged in an insurrection because people were pissed about it and took action. And again, you've conceded it doesn't matter if that was a truthful or false statement that he was making. Then you calling Donald Trump a fascist and someone engaging in an insurrection by killing him would mean you've engaged in it to the same level that Trump did.
Not even close, because there's a drastic difference between standing outside of the Capitol and using this rhetoric and incentivizing people there then on that day instead of actually just saying it out.
So
in
just to
public.
be clear,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know you want to respond. You can respond at closings. We're gonna let me. We got time. We got audience questions as well, and you got long closings. Don't worry. I apologize. I know you're excited.
I'm going to say this real quick. Then the people standing outside the White House that are Democrats calling Trump a fascist are also committing an insurrection. That's your
I'm gonna let
Democrats.
you respond real quick because you got 10 seconds. You got 15 seconds to respond.
Again, I don't think that it's as likely to call somebody a fascist that people are going to engage in violence as it is to say that
To
the
assassination
election as it is to say
Yeah,
that
3,
the election is
2,
stolen, that people will engage
1.
in it.
All right, cool. All right, cool. I'm gonna read super chats now. Then you're gonna start with closings.
Okay.
Then you're gonna close, and then we all got 5 minutes each. We're gonna have. I'm gonna do announcements after that. All right. Then we're gonna do audience questions. So go ahead and start. Hold on. Let me read these super chats first, and then you can start your closing. I apologize. Thank you so much. All right. So Katmere, I'm not gonna read your super chat because it's very personal and rude. But thank you so much for the $10. We appreciate it.
He's mad he got banned from my community. He kept threatening to commit
Listen, I don't know
suicide
about
in my
that. I'm gonna be
Discord,
honest.
so-
I don't give a fuck about none of y'all's drama.
Yeah,
But I like personally. Listen, great to get mad at me and shoot me out later. I'm not gonna read people's personal drama shit. I just don't give a shit, and y'all aren't paying me. So
I want to
not gonna do
clarify.
it.
He is making
Next-
it up, so
next
it
super
is a
chat.
bunch of lies.
hold
but
on.
yeah.
Next super chat we got. I stand America for $10. If quote "Fight like hell" end quote is inside bias. Would Virginia Governor-elect Abigail Spanberg also be participating in that by saying things like "Let your rage fuel you"? Will she be a Sith? That's the answer. I answered for him. Thank you. All right, next question. We had Johnny MD. Now I know why tigers eat their young. I also wonder that. And I do ruin everything, Film Talk. I appreciate it. All right, we are going to go to closings. Rob's got 5 minutes, then you got 5. And then after that, we have announcements. Go ahead, Rob.
So Tom conceded in the opening statement that actually the left commits more acts of violence, which was the prompt. He just says that, well, actually, when it comes to murders, the studies say that it occurs more on the right. But obviously, the nature of this being in person, we actually, full disclosure, didn't even know what the topic was going to be until we came up here. So it's difficult to analyze these studies. However, what I'll say is this, as he's conceded that there are, we'll just say, hinky ways that they collect data in all of these other studies that he's talking about. And I still believe that these are still small numbers. What we see is the effectual violence that affects political change is actually that occurs on the left. We see that their protest, which oftentimes leads to violence, actually does affect political change and actually does stymie policies of the Trump administration. For example, the riots that occurred at Black Lives Matter did affect actual changes, and did the Ferguson riots that occurred before that, in the forms of the way funding to police was going, the way the police interacted, etc. Unfortunately for black people in the inner cities, it made their lives worse, but that's okay. A bunch of lefties grifted off it and became millionaires. Hopefully they face accountability at some time for that. We see these actions actually are effective, and as he's conceded, that we actually see a prominent right-winger that was assassinated that probably set the right back decades in the form of Charlie Kirk, someone you heinously blamed the murder on Donald Trump and not the fucking disgusting lefties that actually took his life. But as is the want of the left, you can see the whole way through this, Tom makes excuses for the left, talks about how he himself would engage in active violence if he felt that these people were undercover officers because he thinks that maybe he wouldn't know, etc., etc. All, by the way, tough guy bullshit talk. He knows where these people are and he would be able to go. And it's terrible advice that's giving the rationale for people that are going to ruin their lives or possibly lead to someone dying by fighting with ICE. It's no fucking joke. Another instance that we didn't talk about was a left-winger that went on top of a building and shot at ICE agents because of rhetoric like Tom speaking, which actually led to the killing of 2 detainees that were there. The left engages in more acts of violence. Tom concedes that they engage in more acts of violence that affect political change. They're treated easier by law enforcement. They're treated easier by Democrats. They're put in prominent positions even when they engage in domestic terrorism like Bill Ayers. They don't have the largest FBI task force in history that go after them. And these studies are absolute bullshit that want you to deny reality, that we can see that the truth is that it's the left that engages in these acts of violence on a near weekly basis. And we have to pretend it and pretend that every time something happens on the right, that's somehow this act of violence we need to shit our pants over. He concedes that right-wingers could go on college campuses and be chased off. He concedes that we've seen acts of violence like Black Lives Matter, that bail funds have been promoted by people like Kamala Harris. It's laughable that he says, well, that's just because she's against bail anyways, and yet she doesn't do it to any right-wingers like the January 6th people. It's laughable. It's clear what the signal that's being shown is. The fact that Tom wants to blame someone like Trump for saying he engaged in an insurrection, even if he said something that was truthful or not, that part of it's irrelevant, because the mere fact he inspired people to be angry proves that he somehow incited an insurrection, and yet he uses the very rhetoric that his Democratic leaders uses, which is that Donald Trump and by extension Charlie Kirk are fascists, and then Kirk is murdered and Trump faces an assassination attempt twice, shows how fucking dangerous this all is. The truth of the matter is, Tom has no bones about saying what he thinks is absolute truth in his objective opinion, that these people are fascist, even if that results in people trying to take their life. He even admitted at one point, if you listen carefully, he understands why people would try to take the life of fascists. He's okay with that. He'll continue to parrot that rhetoric. Yet at the same breath, he'll bitch about Donald Trump because he said, drag this person out at one time. Joe Biden actually made fun of Trump for having to be moved to a bunker, as did many other Democrats. Tom says, I don't give a shit. It was funny. Ha, ha, ha. Trump said that he didn't have to be moved and he was brave in the face of this, so therefore we should mock him for it. The truth is the left has always used violence and intimidation, and it's gotten worse since the advent of Donald Trump. The truth is we can see that it's effectual when we see these judges, when we see these activists, when we see academics, when we see the media, when we see all of these pundits that decide that they're going to immediately smear a great man like Charlie Kirk. Even the New York Times being forced 2 days after his murder to issue a retraction on their own fucking article because they say, we reported yesterday that he said some anti-Semitic things on his podcast. And while that's true, what we left out was that he was criticizing someone and quoting them. The truth is that he was a great fucking man, and I'm glad that we did this debate. I find it disgusting what the left's engaged with, smearing him, and I think that you ought to be fucking ashamed. And God forbid this act of violence be instituted on people from the left that are pundits there as well. May we all rise up and say that we're not going to accept this political violence anymore from these lefties. Keep the memory of Charlie Kirk in our mind. Start going to church and pray, because these fucking lefties will laugh at you when you're murdered and make fun of your fucking wife. Fuck them all. Not one step back.
All right, thank you, audience. I appreciate the enthusiasm. We need more of that. Let me just read one super chat I was made aware of that came through Streamlabs, then I'll turn it over to you for your closing. And so it's from Aqua, and it says, we caught you slipping up your words saying the left is politically violent. We caught you smiling. You get an F and an FU too. Thank you so much for the super chat. That was witty. You had me in the first half. Anyway, go ahead. You got 5 minutes here. Go ahead. And then after you're done, announcements.
So when it comes to acts of violence, again, obviously it is true that the left engages in more instances of violence. I didn't see the term instances or acts in the debate prompt. It was about whether or not the left or the right was more violent. And I do think that murder is just more violent than any sort of act of violence. I think that's pretty obvious. I think that if you ask somebody, hey, would you rather be pinched every single day for a year, which would be an act of violence, or would you rather get murdered one time? I'm pretty sure all of us will take the pinched every single day for a year over the murdered one time. And it is true that every single study that exists on this, while he says he doesn't know, he hasn't looked at it, every single study on this topic is pretty clear that the right engages in by far more acts of political murders. And when I say by far, I'm saying close to 75 to 90% of them. They're not difficult to analyze. They're pretty clear and it's pretty straightforward. The right is just way more likely to murder people because they take a lot of pride in their guns and being the tough machismo guys that they very performatively stand up and act like they are, which is what Trump does all the time, which is why it's funny to laugh at him when he puts his head down like, oh no, they had to drag me to the bunker, which is not at all inciting any sort of violence against him, to make fun of him for that because he is so embarrassed by it. And I don't think I don't think Rob believes that that's inciting any sort of violence against him either. I think that the Second Amendment and people who are actually in favor of the Constitution would look at somebody being dragged out by plainclothes nobodies. We can say they're officers maybe, but in the instance that we're talking about, we don't know. And that if you're going to just stand there and watch somebody get kidnapped, I think you're a pussy, and I think you need to quit with your machismo bullshit and the Second Amendment bullshit if you're just going to stand there and watch your own neighbors get kidnapped like that, which is why that the left actually has good reason to be fighting, and which is why the left is more likely to act as though they are fighting against fascism, because they are actually fighting against fascism. There is a president that does not give a fuck about the Constitution. He doesn't give a fuck about the First Amendment, and the left is acting like it because they actually care about the Constitution. They actually care about America. They actually have real patriotism for a real country, not this make-believe one where you can contradict yourself and lie every single day like Donald Trump does. I think if the left is acting like they're fighting against something, then maybe the right should wake up and realize that maybe they are the thing that the left is fighting against. I think it was pretty clear. Rob knew that he was lying numerous times. He got caught lying numerous times about the case with Kilmar Abrego Garcia and what it is that Judge Zinnes said. He knew that he was lying about what it is that the intelligence agent said about the hallmarks for the Hunter Biden laptop, and same with the Twitter files. It's all pretty clear. Like, he got stuck there and knew that he was lying about what it was that was in that. And he tries to stretch everything that I say to pretend as though I said something else so that he can argue against that over and over and over, to where I have to keep correcting him because it's much harder to engage with the real arguments that are actually coming out of my mouth. Donald Trump did call Kamala a fascist numerous times. And if this is incentivizing violence or inciting violence in any way, Trump is just as guilty of it as anybody else. But the difference is that when we call Trump a fascist, people actually believe us. Nobody believes Trump or anybody else when they call us fascists.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. We have one more super chat, and then I'm going to turn it over for a moment. And before we do the announcements and the audience chat, let me read this last super chat. This is a reverse massage for $4.99. Rob, Cook, Tom, like a fucking turkey. Thank you so much for the chat. Now, before we end it and we get voting, I appreciate both of them, our game bettors. Thank you, Tom. I know you came to a very hostile environment. This was clearly not a home crowd, so props to Tom. Everybody, yes to Tom. Clearly, yeah. Thank you for doing that. Thanks to our game pro Rob as well, for coming in and doing this thing. Now, before we begin, before I turn it over, I would like to say this is only happening today because the man that's about to come over here. Before we do this, thank you so much, Grid One. We appreciate all the things. Grid rented out this facility, put on a fantastic event. Had my dumb ass come and narrate. It's been good. We love it. Thank you so much, Grid One Motorsports. Go ahead.
Thank you for coming out, my friend. Thank you. Take the chair here for a second. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, man. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate everybody coming out tonight, especially everyone here live that has watched the debates go on all day today. I want to thank Tom for coming out and taking what looked like a real beating there. I want to thank Rob for coming out and being a good sport and not beating him too hard. I really appreciate all of that. It is wonderful to see. And I want to thank everyone that has super chatted me over the last 4 months. This event was only made possible because of that. I didn't take any money out of my own pocket to do this. This is all from my supporters and the channel. Without you, it wouldn't have happened, and we wouldn't have had this wonderful event for all of these great people. I really appreciate all the support tonight. I can't say enough about how great this event has been. We've got people from all over the country. They've been wonderful today. Not one, I mean, other than the bloodbath here and on stage, not speaking of this specific one, but other than the debates here, everybody's had a great time. It's just been excellent company, great fellowship, wonderful to see. I want to do this again. We want to be able to put on events like this. I think it's really, really important. I want to acknowledge that I'm just barely an entertainer, but this is what we can do when we come together. This is how great our lives can be. And look, we're all going to. Thank you. Also, Kissy Cat super chatted $20. Oh, that's Oxcato. I'm sorry. I hate saying the XO bullshit. It's Kissy Cat. Super chatted $20. Let's hope we can all be friends.
Hey, Grant,
I think we are. Yes.
Why you a bitch?
All right, just a quick question from the audience.
Yes.
Can you ask Tom how it felt for Rob to wrap that debate up in a condom and fuck him up the ass?
I can't ask him that. I can't ask him that. Tom's a good sport. Tom's a great sport.
Well, I'll answer that for Tom. I'll answer that for Tom because the answer is real men don't use condoms. Anyway, but back to that. Sorry. All right, so thank you so much for Grid once again for hosting. I appreciate it so much. Grid is the best. If y'all don't know, the man is too generous. He puts us on. We love Grid. He's a golden god. I can't speak enough about this man. In the short time I've known him, he's treated us real well, or at least me. The rest of y'all, I don't give a fuck about. But I care about how he's treated me. So I appreciate it so much. So shout out to him. Shout out to our competitors. All right, I will pull the chat back up. Let's start with audience questions. Chat, if y'all want to get your question in.
We got one more super chat from Kissy Cat, $50. Say my name.
Hey. OX Kissy Cat XO. There you go. I got it. Let me say it with a little flair. No, I won't. I'm just kidding. But thank you so much, Kissy Cat. We will start with the audience. If we have any more super chats, I will be. Please, these are yours now. Yeah, absolutely. You want to? Yeah, take them.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was for y'all. All right, so we'll move this up. I apologize for my tardiness. The other thing went down. Also, big shout out to our volunteer tech team. Thanks so much for helping us out. Woo! Very, very nice of them. Shout out whoever catered for everything else. We appreciate everybody helping us do this event today. It has been wonderful. Very exciting. I've enjoyed it quite a bit. Thanks for having me, Grid. My name is Admiral Gibbs. If you didn't know, I am the host of the Debate Championship Series. Anyway, so now for audience questions. Who's got a question? Let's start with homie in the back. Come walk up here and yell it. And if it's not loud enough.
Tomfoolery. Why is it that the only thing you want to talk about is fucking January 6th?
All right, let me repeat that question for the audience if they couldn't hear it. Why did Tomfoolery only want to talk about January 6th? Go ahead.
So I don't only want to talk about January 6th. It was only brought up as an example to say that when Rob is saying that the right is held to a higher standard than the left, I'm giving an obvious example of where the left is held to a higher example, meaning that per person in BLM, they were arrested and had higher, longer sentences per conviction. And that doesn't include on top of that Trump, not only after they had less conviction or less time in their convictions, they also got pardoned afterwards by Trump. But I would also say that in general, I end up talking about January 6th a lot because a lot of right wingers just tend to lie about what happened on that day and continue to change history the longer that it goes on. So
I noticed you said something interesting there. You said that they got more time per conviction.
Mm-hmm.
Was the conviction rate higher?
I don't know.
What was the conviction rate of the January 6ers?
I don't know.
I think it's 100%.
It's not.
Are you
No,
also,
it's
it's
not.
damn close. Are you also aware that the January 6th was the largest FBI task force in history?
Maybe.
And you acknowledge that there were far more perpetrators in the Black Lives Matter riots.
Yeah, of course.
And yet a smaller task force.
You're talking about one day at the Capitol versus we're talking about like tens of thousands of protests, the most that have ever been for any one movement in
Violent
history.
lefties. Great.
And that 1% of those, less than 1% of those tens of thousands of protests ended up being violent at
That's
all.
not true.
That is
Actually, the Stanford report said that it was about 93% that were peaceful. However, interestingly enough, it used locations. You acknowledge this, right?
From what I saw, they use states, not what each location.
Well, no. There's not tens of thousands of states.
No. That's what I'm saying. But they did like a protest in a state on each day. Whereas like when we had a protest in Woodstock, another one the city over, another one the next city over.
The point
But
I'm making
each
is
one,
this.
most of those were not violent.
The studies that we're talking about talked about violent locations, right? So there were 212, I believe is the number. It's somewhere between 212 and 222. I can't remember the number, but there were 212 locations of violence. Now, the interesting word there is location, because that means that if you had a place like Portland that had violence like 60 days, that only counts as one, right? So even then, to brag and say, well, it was only a very low percentage that were violent, no one gives a fuck about that. We're talking about, on average, more than 4 locations per state that had political riots. That's fucking insane. And the fact that you brag about it and you're like, biggest protest in history. Yeah, no fucking shit. That's why I win the prompt. The left engages in violence more than the right. You brag about it like this is, well, they were so pissed. Look how many times. But it was
protests, not
mostly
the biggest riots. Like I'm saying there's the most protests ever. So like obviously, if you have tens of thousands of protests happening all over the world, not just in the United States, that yes, like some of them might end up being violent.
Let's say it was 1%. What's 1% of 10,000?
It's 1,000. Or sorry.
But what? I got you, bitch.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
sorry.
Oh, nonetheless, I'll make this point, but that's still 100 incidents.
Yeah, 10%.
100 incidents, right? So, okay, that's 2 per state. 100 violent riots in a fucking 3-month period?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And almost every one of them would have been violence that was directed at individuals as well, like law enforcement that was trying to stop it. Not just property violence.
What is the example of like that many right-wing protests happening and how many of those were violent?
I agree.
Oh, you guys don't have anything to protest. That's my
No.
yeah.
We do. We have jobs, unlike you
don't have
people.
anything
We
to
have
protest.
families and
I'm gonna give
jobs.
you
We
30
don't
seconds
riot.
These people have jobs. They're out. They're working.
Yeah, they get
but
paid to
take
fucking
time
riot.
off of.
All right. Let's go to another audience question here. I know. Listen, before I do my Macho Man impression, we got y'all for 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime. Y'all ain't going nowhere, bitches. Anyway, here you go. What you got for us?
So I have a question for Tom. Do you actually know what the Cato's
I'm gonna repeat his question.
study is?
He wants to know. He wants
What do you
the
mean
audience
if
to
I know
ask
what
if he
it
knows what the
In
Cato
what sense?
study is.
Like the methodology.
It isn't a peer-reviewed study. It is a Substack article that was posted on the Cato Institute website by Alex Noerr, who is the vice president of the Cato Institute. His methodology was looking at a bunch of killings and going more or less based off of vibes, whether or not they're right or left wing. For example, Darrell Brooks was not labeled at all because Darrell Brooks was quote unquote crazy, despite the fact that he was deemed good enough to stand trial, and he was also what?
Of course, I agree. Keep going.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, Elliot Rodgers was labeled as a right wing. So like, and these are particular examples. If you want, we can go through with a fine-tooth comb, and you'll see that the Cato Institute study is one, not actually a study. It's just.
Why wouldn't Elliot Rodgers be a right winger?
He just hated women. That's not a right-wing position.
I think it is. Okay.
Okay. I guess this is my question. What?
I get a lot of shit only from the right for how much I love women. I don't get it from the left. So.
Okay, so what?
Oh, you don't
So
get it from
what I-
Donnie, really?
What? Okay, so I guess the main question is, what makes hating women a uniquely right-wing position when I can point to left-wing philosophers who clearly didn't think very highly of women?
So from my understanding, the Cato Institute, when it came to whether or not they aligned them with the left or the right, it wasn't just vibes, but it was whether or not they aligned with some sort of institute that identified as left or right and what it was that they were preaching.
Okay,
Can you
Elliot
also
Rogers,
respond to
specific example. This is a very specific example. What institute did Elliot Rogers align with, which led to him being labeled right-wing?
I don't know on that specific example. Oh, no, what?
Can you also respond to the Madani comment as well?
Madani?
Yeah, what they just asked you about Madani as well. You know.
I don't know what Madani
All right, we'll
is.
come back to you, Madani. Go ahead and answer this. I apologize.
Well, the point I'm making is that this is this Cato Institute study is not really a study by any. It's not peer reviewed. It's literally a Substack post by this Alex guy who's not he's an immigration policy analyst. He doesn't even deal with this sort of crime data shit. There's no reason to think that this is even a valid study in the first case, and yet people constantly use this as like one of the main sources for saying the right is more violent.
He does do crime data. He does do crime data with immigrants as well. He has the data with this study is not drastically different from the other types that he would engage with.
Okay, so what specific credentials does he have for identifying whether or not somebody is right or left wing on an ideological basis? Because my claim is that Elliot Rogers wasn't fucking right wing. He just hated women, and that's not a uniquely right wing position.
Well, so again, it would depend on the types of content creators that he was watching or the types of people that he got his information from. And that if those people do align with right wingers, then yes, that is going to be where he's
Elliot
going to
Rogers
get.
was the start of the fucking incels.
Hold on, let's let Rob. Do you care to comment on what you said?
Yeah, I think this illustrates. I'm unaware of the specific Cato. I know the Persecution Project. I've gone through it over 60 different examples I've gone through it that are miscategorized and just taking a random sample. Same's true of the CISIS study. For example, CISIS in 2022, right, their study said that the total amount of left-wing violence in 2020 was like 3 examples. Right now, I lived through 2020 and saw the left-wing violence. But yeah, the questioner makes a valid point. I'll just say this. There are 2 problems with this in category areas. One, you have to rely on law enforcement. So if you have cities where they're fudging the data or they're fudging the motivations, for example, if they call it a hate crime, if 2 blacks attack a Mexican and say some racial slurs against Mexicans, if that's considered a hate crime that they say right wing, what's it considered when we see the overwhelming disproportional amount of violence from black people to white people? Is that ever considered hate crimes or left-wing violence? No. The second category is the people that are looking at the data after law enforcement. These people have an axe to grind, and they want to say that the right engages in more violence. So they have all of this bullshit, like the questioner brings up, where it's like, well, our vibes are that Elliot Rogers is a right-winger, and Darrell Brooks doesn't qualify as a left-winger as he's mowing down Christians, including children, at a parade in his SUV. It's absolute bullshit. You can go through these. Michael Reinhold. Does the Cato Institute say that he was a left-wing killer that proudly killed a Patriot Prayer member and celebrated that he got one? Probably not. Right. And this is the kind of bullshit. Now, you acknowledge that the ADL and other organizations have done this, and yet you're incredulous at the fact that this study that we're not looking at is like, no, it has to be legit. And the first person that's aware of the study more than you comes out like, it's a fucking dude's blog post.
Because the difference is that you guys don't have any other studies. So you can have problems with every single study that comes out because they all come to the same conclusion and you're unhappy with it. But there is no right-wing study that says the opposite. It doesn't exist.
When the law enforcement and the think tanks and the NGOs and academia on your side, and that's where the big money is, then yes, I'm not surprised.
They're going to be on the side of the right people. I don't know what to tell you.
They're on the side of the
Hey, they're on the side of somebody. Let me hold on. Let me go to,
let's leave it finish. Go.
Yeah, go ahead, finish your question.
Reinhold is labeled as left. And
You got one.
Yeah.
Is the Pulse nightclub shooter right wing or left wing?
Why not? No, he would be.
He was jihadist.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah,
I'll
he
take
was-
that answer.
he was
Tom.
jihadist,
All right,
yeah.
I just wanted to see. All right, this man with the fantastic handlebar stash. Let me.
So the first guy that asked.
Everybody, shh. Hey. Let me ask this question. Thank you.
So the first guy to ask the question asked about J6, and then you made the comment that, oh, well, the right is just ignorant or lying about things. But in your closing statement, you said that Trump was at the Capitol encouraging protesters to go inside. I was at the Capitol, and Trump was not there. So are you lying or are you ignorant?
I'm saying he was standing outside of the Capitol. So he was a
standing
couple
outside the
blocks away. Yes. And that
Where are you getting that information?
where he did his speech. It was like a couple
I was
blocks
at
from the
He was
Capitol.
not at the Capitol building.
Not during the fucking insurrection. He gave a
He
speech.
never went to the Capitol.
Oh, okay. It was, I just
I
said,
was there. I lied.
okay. Listen to the words I'm saying. A couple blocks from the Capitol. He gave a speech.
It was like a mile down the road.
Okay. Sounds like a couple blocks, but yeah. Okay.
He never went to the Capitol.
I know he didn't go to the Capitol. He wasn't there during the insurrection.
He was at the Capitol. Then you make the comment that, oh, it's the right that's ignorant.
Okay,
So you
okay,
got-
okay,
hold on,
okay. So let me ask you:
hold
Do
on,
you
gotta
think
let-
it
you gotta
makes?
let him answer.
Do you
Let
think
him
it makes
answer.
a
Go ahead,
big
Tom.
difference with him being a mile from the Capitol making those statements versus being right in front of the Capitol? Do you think that's a big difference
He
maker?
told people to walk to the Capitol.
Do you think? No. Answer the question. Answer the
And that's
question.
what we did.
Answer the question. Do you think that that's a big difference maker? That's your big point.
That's-
It's
now
your
you're-
no.
now you're
Answer the
talking
question.
about this.
Answer the question. That's your big point.
That's
He
the-
wasn't
that's
in front of the
not- I asked
Capitol,
you a question, you haven't answered it.
All
which
right.
was.
It might not be
Are
a
you
big.
lying or are you dishonest?
It
Let
might
me-
not be a big deal other than to say that.
All right, point of order. Hold of order. I'm gonna let Tom answer. Let me just ask you this, Tom, so we can get through this because it seems like it's getting a little heated here with the audience member. Why are you asking that? And then, given the answer that you want, go ahead, and then we'll go to Rob. Go ahead.
Because to me, him being a couple blocks or a mile from the Capitol, let's say he was 2-3 miles from the Capitol, that would make no difference to me with the type of rhetoric that he was using, where he is saying that the election was stolen over and over, and he is saying that they need to go and fight like hell. He does say we're going to march down there peacefully and patriotically at the beginning of his 3-hour speech. But for the next 3 hours, he's saying a lot of other things that would, if I believed him, would incite me to go to the Capitol and try to delay the certification of the vote.
Just to clarify before I turn to Rob, I just want to, for my own sake, are you basically saying that he basically did the like tongue in cheek, cover his ass, like, oh, peacefully and patriotic quotes? Is that kind of what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that it doesn't matter if he had an intent to send them there. If
Okay.
he didn't, he's so stupid that he has no idea what type of rhetoric is going to incite people to do something like that. But that it doesn't matter if he intended to do it or not. The things that he said would have incited me to do it if I thought that he had a lick of credibility.
All right, fair enough. Rob, go ahead.
I'll say this. You've already acknowledged that it doesn't matter if what he said was true or not, if it could incite people. And seeing as how we saw Charlie Kirk murdered by someone who wrote, "Catch this fascist," and then within days, you and almost everyone else on the left proceeded to say Charlie Kirk was a fascist and that all Trump supporters are fascists, would seem to mean that if there is a subsect of the left that truly believe that they are fascists, that they would kill them. Do you agree?
Yes, we've already talked about this.
Right.
Yes.
So then I would say, when you say, well, it doesn't matter that he was a mile away, the fact that you take to your platform, so you individually are guilty of your very same criticism. And more importantly, Democrats have gone a mile away from the Capitol and other places when they knew that there were going to be protests that ended up resulting in violence, like some of the Kings protests, the No Kings protest. Why wouldn't they be equally as guilty as inciting violence?
Well, I think that the way that the Trump administration has gone about what it is that they say about the left and the Hunter Biden laptop and all these other things, that there's good reason for why it is left-wing politicians who are attacked at a much higher rate than right-wing
It's not
politicians.
true at all.
It is true.
It's not true
It
at
is
all.
100%.
Name me the assassination attempt on a left-wing politician in the last 4 years.
The Hoffman, again, just got killed.
Well, concede she was actually killed. That's absolutely true, right? I guess I was saying attempts that were foiled was what I said with attempt.
that
Hoffman
was foiled, then we can go to the
Hoffman
Pelosi
was killed
one.
by someone who thought that Tim Walz told him to do it
Yeah, and then there was the Pelosi one where the guy went to Pelosi's house and with the hammer.
with the hammer. That was an
Yes.
assassination attempt on a politician.
He almost killed her husband, but sure.
I don't
like,
think that there is any evidence whatsoever that that had any political motivation, nor was directed at the politician.
he was there for Pelosi because of things like he wanted to find out where the Epstein files were and Hunter Biden's laptop and stuff like that.
Maybe
was his whole
I will
reason
say,
for
I guess
being
I didn't follow the trial. I guess maybe those are the claims that were made. Nonetheless, like we could see incident after incident where we see right wingers were attacked. I'll give you an example of why I don't trust the FBI. Remember when Steve Scalise was shot at a ball field?
Yes.
What the FBI said the motivation of that was?
What's his name?
What was the original motivation? They said
I forget his name. The old guy.
Bernie.
Yeah, Bernie
That's
Sanders.
no.
Yeah.
That's not what they said. They said, and I'm quoting, self-aliving by cop. That was not considered an act of left-wing violence until there were protests by Republicans. Even though he was there parroting the rhetoric of the Democrats, saying that Obamacare being repealed is going to kill hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And the FBI looked at it and said, I don't see political motivation. That's why we don't trust these fuckers. And again, you can't get away from the fact that Charlie Kirk hadn't had a fucking funeral and you people couldn't wait to call him a fascist, knowing that it just led to his death.
We called him a fascist before, but
and immediately proceeding after someone shot him for it. And you acknowledge that this will cause people to shoot.
On the baseball game, I would take your word for it, but I got all these other things that you totally misrepresented as well. So
what?
Like, again, the Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
I didn't misrepresent. It was absolutely correct. The courts can't force him.
The intel agents. That was not what we argued about, but okay.
Our great questioner.
That is what you kept pivoting to and moving the goalposts to.
Last thing I'll say, our great questioner there that said, actually, he wasn't at the Capitol, he was a mile away, and you saying, well, why does that really make a difference? That makes more of a difference than your fucking bullshit, acknowledging when I'm saying how biased the FBI was and the intel agencies, acknowledging that they actually put out a statement to help Biden in the fucking debates, and you're like, yeah, but technically they didn't say it was Russian disinformation. They just said it was the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. That's fucking laughable. And you saying that proves that I'm lying?
I'll let you respond, and then we'll go to the audience again if there's any more. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, we weren't arguing about whether or not they can force Trump to do that. That is what you pivoted to and moved the goalpost to a ton of times, but that was not your statement. Your statement was that they weren't allowed, or that, yes, that they said that they were trying to force him and that they couldn't, but I never made the statement that they could force him. It was the fact that the part of the court order was that he had to request him to come back, and that they said, we're not going to. And that
my argument, you said they had to request, and I said they don't have the lawful authority to do that.
Correct, which means
then I'm not wrong.
But that again, that applies to like almost everything that the president does. That is part of his duty.
Let's go to the next question here. I feel like y'all argue this. Let me go to the gentleman in the gray with the hat over here. Go ahead.
Can you guys handle yelling at him for a minute while I take a piss?
Yeah, come over here. Don't worry. I can pretend to be you for a second. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, fuck it. Come on. Oh, well, then in that case, we'll come. Oh, wait. No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. This might
all right. Well, I was going to say, Go ahead.
I like the questioner. Let's do it.
Go ahead.
It'll only take a minute.
Okay.
I forgot my original question, but this is serious.
Fuck you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
When you wake up in the morning, how does it feel to be a complete legend?
It feels absolutely amazing, you know. I'm really shit at everything in life except debating and being charming. So it's always a pleasure to come and be able to do both of those. So yes, it feels great.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate that question. I'm going to read a super chat while Rob goes and takes the lead. Then we'll go back to y'all in the audience. Z10 Den says, I'm not there and grid is not your bitch. Clean up after yourselves, masturbators. I agree.
Amen.
Clean up after this because fuck all that. It's a lot of work. All right, who's next? We got another question from the audience. I see you, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead and speak up loud.
So, Tom, when you wake up, how does it feel to not be an absolute fucking legend?
Let me repeat that.
It's rough, man.
Tough crowd, Rob. Tough crowd, Tom. Tough crowd, yeah.
In your closing statement, you said the right should wake up. The left is fighting them for what they are. If we're so fascist, why the fuck do you think we haven't met your force with our authoritarian supreme regime?
So Donald Trump has been sending the military to a bunch of cities to quell protests. So I don't know what you're talking about.
You said the right as a whole.
Well, why? Yeah, you wouldn't have to if the president's sending the military. What are you going to do?
The left is doing it without the military. You realize that your side's attacking the right?
You just said, why aren't they going at attacking the left? And I'm saying that the president is sending the military to quell the protests, so they are doing it.
Could you define how they're attacking the right, just for the sake of argument?
Yeah, they're shooting us, they're beating us. Not to mention, dude, the whole Nazi thing. Like, what do you think about whenever they say a good Nazi is a dead Nazi and then call us all Nazis.
Yeah, I've had debates against leftists on rhetoric like that, but I also rarely hear somebody call somebody like Trump a Nazi. I do hear them call him a fascist pretty regularly, but not Nazi.
I guess my original question I'm asking is, what do you think your definition is wake the fuck up? Because if we were to wake up to the same concept as y'all's guys' version of wake up is, we would be meeting overseas force. That's my point. We don't need the military to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I say wake up, I was a Republican for 33 years of my life. I was a conservative. And when Donald Trump showed up as the representative for the Republicans, I realized that this was not my party, that this is not a party who stood for the Constitution, and that I moved and started voting for Democrats. And so I would assume if you cared about the Constitution and our rights, that you would also start voting for Democrats.
Fuck that grift.
Well, hey, for the record, I unironically believe that Tom, even now, is 100 times the conservative that counterpoints is. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I got another super chat from Mr. Boulay and the Department of, I don't even know.
Numismatics.
Yeah, whatever. And when you do clean up after yourselves, masturbators, be sure to use tactical soap from Klondike Soap Company. Yeah, that's right. Grid's tactical soap. I got another question from this gentleman over here. I can't see who it is, but go ahead.
Yeah, you just got done saying that Donald Trump was deploying the military to cities, but wasn't he deploying them to cities to protect federal buildings like in Portland where they were under siege, where we watched it with thousands and thousands of people alive because local law enforcement refuses to arrest them for attacking those buildings? How can that be a fascist position, Tom?
Well, I saw people getting arrested for attacking those buildings. You can go look up the arrest rates and see that tons of people were being arrested for attacking those buildings.
We watched it live.
You and I debated it live, and you said that there were hundreds of people looting a gas station. It turned out to be 5 people.
Weren't the military deployed and they protected federal buildings? He did not deploy the military on the streets. He did not arrest anybody with the military. So why the fuck did you just lie to this guy?
I didn't.
You said up,
I didn't.
Just saying he sent the military to the cities to protect buildings he's supposed to protect via the Constitution, Tom.
So I didn't say that he arrested anybody. So I don't know why you asked me that and then say that he. Because it is, I think, to intimidate them. If people are already being arrested for attacking those buildings, and you're saying that they're not being arrested, that they're not protecting those buildings, and then you send the military out there to, I think, yes, to intimidate the protesters.
Away from
then
the federal buildings, Tom.
Away from the federal
Yeah,
buildings.
They were
how can you
attacking.
intimidating protesters when they're in protecting federal buildings. Because the protesters
I just
want to
explained
go to
that.
ICE facilities,
I just
Tom.
explained
Hang
it.
on. They want to go to ICE facilities and they want to assault people. They want to cause all kinds of problems. And that's what the military was, protecting ICE facilities so that our federal agents can do their jobs. How's that not only not unconstitutional, but how are you fuckers not the fascists when you're going after our federal bodies? We're trying to enforce law.
So I haven't done anything. So I don't know what you say, you guys. I most of the people who are out there.
Fascists for doing it.
That I don't know why you keep moving the goalposts. Literally, every time I start answering a question that you've asked, you immediately yell out something random that has nothing to do with the question that you asked.
And then
But,
we go back to him.
I think it is mostly leftists who are engaging in violence. These are people who also protest against Democrats and hate Democrats and don't vote for Democrats. So it's not my people, but I do think that like Trump has the right to put military on federal buildings, but if he was just putting them on federal property, these things wouldn't have even gone to court in the first place with LA. Well, they didn't end up going anywhere else because it was challenged.
So they were only in federal buildings, Tom?
Yes, they ended
We're
up.
full of shit when he said he deployed the military to our cities.
What did I say earlier? Can you repeat it back to me?
Donald Trump, when he started deploying the military to these various cities and doing these fascist-like things, that's when he turned against him. He deployed the military.
I didn't say that.
They went and protected federal buildings.
No, I didn't say that. I said that he sent the military out there after they were already arresting the protesters anyways, lied about whether or not they were arresting the protesters, and sent the military just to intimidate the protesters.
They weren't just arresting 1 or 2 protesters.
Can I just ask a
One or two.
clarification question? Is sending the National Guard even to protect a federal building still considered sending the military to a building to a city or not? Like in a technical sense.
So initially, Trump said that he was sending them to LA to go to ICE raids to protect them out in the streets. That is very different than just sending them to a federal building.
So the reason I'm asking this is I would be sympathetic to the, like as a moderator. I mean, as moderator, just to like maybe flesh out what the gentleman was just saying. So I would be sympathetic to the idea. Hey, they sit in the federal buildings. They defend the federal buildings. That's something as a righty I'd be, But however, in the most technical sense, I could get behind the idea. Oh, he sent the military to these federal buildings, knowing they would be attacked and cause an incident. You didn't really push that like kind of narrative, which is what I would have thought would have been the most. Why didn't you push that?
Why didn't I argue that they didn't?
That he sent them to the military there to be attacked in order to make an issue.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
So, okay, all right. I, on the surface, actually disagree with, I guess, is it Mr. Wilson? I do think that Trump sent the military to the cities. However, I agree with him when he says he sent them there to defend the buildings.
Other cities.
Yeah, right. So but I agree with the statement he did to defend the buildings, right? Now, I'm surprised that you didn't take the argument, hey, you sent them to these buildings in order to cause an incident. Why didn't you take that argument?
I said that he sent them there in order to intimidate the protesters. That is the same thing. That they're going to get more riled
That's
up.
the same thing in your mind.
Yes.
So just to be
Rob.
clear, your argument is that the left couldn't control themselves when they see the National Guard. They become more violent?
I think that these are more direct representations of the Trump administration. Yeah.
Was what he did illegal?
No, not to send them to federal buildings.
And you acknowledge that in your estimation, this would predictably lead to more violence from the left.
Yes. Yeah.
And you think that this isn't evidence that the left is more violent than the right?
Well, again, if we want to talk about instances of violence, again, I will still concede that
But
they
this
are
isn't-
engaging in that,
your
but that they're
argument-
not running around murdering politicians.
Well,
at
that's
the
not
same
true.
rate.
The murdering of politicians, even if we would accept that the instances you say are right wing, such as the Hortmans, right? And that was done by a right. Even if we accept that, that's a very small amount, right? Very small.
No, again, we've gone over the pipe bombs that were sent to the Obama.
How many people murdered?
That none of them died.
We have tons of examples of those sorts of bombs. For example, when Brett Kavanaugh gets an assassination attempt by a transsexual, right? After your boy Chuck Schumer stands in front of the Capitol and says he will reap the whirlwind. After we saw a lefty leak the Dobbs decision. Was that an incitement to violence?
Leaking the Dobbs decision?
Correct.
What he
They
said?
leaked the Dobbs decision, which causes Schumer to say, Kavanaugh, you will reap the whirlwind, to which causes someone to launch an assassination attempt against Kavanaugh.
Reap the whirlwind? No, I don't. I think
No,
he's
that's sort of saying we're coming after you. That's not an act of violence.
He said we're coming after you. Like,
He said that you're going to pay the price. You've reaped the whirlwind. Then they
Okay.
acknowledged that there were lefties outside his house on a daily basis. Then there was an assassination attempt. The problem is, like, you're citing all of these nebulous things. Well, the Nancy Pelosi thing, and there was this one pipe bomb thing. There's
it's not
tons-
nebulous. There's only one side that was pushing the rhetoric that incentivized what
That's
they
not
said
true.
happened with Nancy Pelosi.
That's absolutely not what happened to Nancy Pelosi. Okay, but that's like saying there's only one side that's putting the rhetoric that led to what doing Charlie Kirk and led what the assassination attempts of Donald Trump.
Yeah, sure.
And led to the ABC affiliate attack.
Yeah, sure.
And led to the people standing on the guy that shot at ICE agents on top of that building.
Sure.
Okay. And that led to the violence against ICE agents that we see on a daily basis.
Sure.
Okay. My argument is, although you could say there's only one side that led to Nancy Pelosi, I could point to more grievous instances of violence that occur far more frequently from only the left's rhetoric causing it. Rhetoric that you share.
Sure, but not murder attempts. No, you
That's
can't.
not true.
And
Charlie Kirk's
especially
dead. Donald
successful
Trump, 2
murders.
assassination
Sure,
attempt.
in
Brett
1
Kavanaugh,
year.
an assassination
Yes.
attempt. Steve Scalise, assassination attempt. They tried to take out everyone at the Republican ball field. We have other instances of attacks, thwarted attacks that have occurred against politicians.
Yes, in 1 year we have 7 left-wing murders to the 6 right-wing murders for the first
But
time
again,
in
that's
over
but
25
again,
years.
You're conflating here, right? The
Conflating
examples
what?
that you just said was only one murder. So when I talk about other things that aren't murders, you're like, yeah, but there's only 7 to 6 murders.
Yeah, I don't have the list in front of me.
Right.
I do
So
have
then
a
you're
list,
you're
but I
confl-
do
you're
know.
mixing this.
No, I'm not mixing
I'm gonna
anything.
let you
Just to be
respond, Tom.
clear,
Go ahead.
I have literally counted all of them and gone through each and every single instance of these, and I do leave out like the guy who's a right winger, but some attacked a Mormon church recently. Like I don't count like random things like that, but it is 6 to 7 that like the left has murdered 7 people this year for political reasons. The right has done 6.
Let's go to this gentleman here. He had his hand raised. Come join us and ask us another question if you don't mind.
Yes, Mr. Tom, during the back and forth, you made the claim that
there were riots and there were some people who were deported illegally. And then you said that the riots got them to change their plan and bring the people back. Therefore, they were necessary. Is that about what you said?
I don't know if that's what actually changed their minds. I do know that before the protests, they said that they weren't going to bring them back. After the protests, they did bring some.
And there
of
was
them back.
violence at the protests.
Some of the protests had violence.
So by
yes.
that logic, would Republicans who believe that January 6th people were being held illegally, would that give them the right to protest with violent protests? And seeing that they don't, doesn't that prove that the right is less violent?
Well, it would again have to do with whether or not they actually believe the things that they say, because there's no evidence that anybody was being held illegally from the January 6th protest.
It's not true. They actually.
Hold on, before you respond, Tom. I got another super chat from Catmere, $10. Tom caught lying the whole debate live in 4K. Wants to call me a liar. LOL. Hit me up. I got proof, Tom. All right, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't give a shit. Go ahead, Rob. But appreciate the
wasn't
money.
that one of the specific charges that a lot of the January 6 people that got was overturned by a higher court for all of them?
Sure, but that doesn't mean that they were being held illegally, meaning that they didn't have probable cause in order to hold.
What does it matter if they thought that the law was unjust, that they were being held? It'd be the same rationale, and it would turn out that the court eventually agreed with them.
No, that's not the same to say that. Like you even talked about Penny earlier and whether or not he should have been arrested. And I was saying, yes, I think he should have been arrested. I thought he was innocent from the beginning, but I thought that a court should adjudicate this and go through the process in order to find him innocent. That's totally different to say that because I thought he was innocent, therefore we should just immediately protest his arrest.
It doesn't matter, right? Like your argument that they didn't like what the courts eventually had said about what Donald Trump's team did with Kilmar Abreu Garcia, so therefore it justified violence, which then in turn led to them bringing him back, and that's somehow legitimate.
No, it wasn't.
There's
that they
no
didn't
reason.
like it. The Trump administration admitted that they illegally deported
does
him.
not matter.
You just said that they didn't like it. It's not that they didn't like it. It's that it was illegal.
It is literally an analogous situation that if people also believed that there was unlawful detention, which a court later ruled was unlawful, that they would have been justified to use the same acts of violence you're saying the left was justified to do.
No. Again, one of them has, they never found that they illegally detained.
Okay, then real quick, before Garcia, before
wait,
the,
you
before the
agree
judge,
with that, right?
Before
that
the judge
makes it disanalogous, yes?
Before the judge,
yes?
Before the judge told Trump that he must request to bring back Garcia, before it was adjudicated, the people that engaged in violence then were wrong. When it was reported, Garcia had a withholding order from this particular place, from El Salvador.
Yeah.
Right? And people said, that's outrageous, but the judge hadn't ruled on it yet. Those people were wrong if they engaged in acts of violence because the judge had yet to rule on it.
From the point that the Trump administration spoke, they immediately said, we admit that we illegally deported him. So we didn't have to wait for the judge to rule on something. They admitted that they did.
That's not that it's irrelevant to the judge ruling, right? That they had to turn the airplane back and all of that shit. It could have been that a judge said
it's disanalogous to the example that you're giving, where you're saying illegally detained, which by a January 6er, where they weren't illegally detained, they were rightfully detained. Even if a court overturned it later, they still had probable cause in order to detain this person. They did not have that in the example with Abreu Garcia.
The fucking false equivocations that the left will engage in to justify using fucking violence to achieve the outcomes they want. Well, in this unique situation, it was okay for us to engage in violence because this human trafficker that's alleged, Kilmar Abreu Garcia, he said that he was afraid to go back to El Salvador. So even though he had an order of deportation, we're justified to use violence, and look, it worked. But if you were writing a court case that actually these January 6 people were detained unlawfully, you wouldn't be justified the violence because Trump admitted that it was a mistake that they sent him. Go fuck yourself.
I didn't say violence.
You can't justify this
I never said violence. I never said violence. I said protest. No, I didn't.
Did they engage in violence? You said yes.
But I said that I justified the violence. I did not justify the violence. I justified the protest. No, it's not bullshit. You can roll back the tape. You're lying again. You keep lying about what it is that I'm saying. You purposefully stretch what it is that I'm saying because you know I didn't say that.
So you think that me and the questioner and everyone else was sitting here saying it's outrageous that you're saying these people should protest? That's what you think we were questioning.
You guys all voted for Trump, right?
I mean, listen.
Yeah, I think everybody's just as confused as you. Yes, I would believe that.
That guy stood up and said, you said that there were riots. You said, huh?
I said.
Let me finish. You said there were riots, and those riots led to him coming back. That's what you said.
And yes.
Okay.
No, I did not say.
You said I don't.
I did not say. I said the protests happened after they said that they would not bring him back. I did not say the riots happened. I said the protests happened after they said they would bring him back, and that we can just assume that because they changed their minds afterwards, that this may have played a part in it. That is what I said. I did not say riot.
The language that he used was riot.
And the language that I used was the language that I corrected him and said that the protest happened after
I specifically said, and there's protests had violence.
They had violence. I'm talking about protests, though. I'm not saying that they ought to have used violence.
So
you're saying that I'm prescribing the violence, and I'm not.
That is absolutely not what happened.
You got 2 minutes to go back and forth, then we got to go more.
I specifically said these protests had violence. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so your argument is you're completely condemning the violence that they used.
Yes.
And you acknowledge that violence may have had some sort of effect.
I think the protests likely could have had the same effect
and
without the violence. And
you're acknowledging that the violence likely could have had some sort of effect.
Maybe, but not. I think it would have been more negative than positive.
Okay, but you're saying that it could have. So they engaged in violence that you acknowledge is an act of left-wing violence that's completely unjustified.
Sure.
That's not what it seemed that you suggested the entire way through this debate.
It is. I said over and over that the protests were about whether or not they were whether or not they trusted the Trump administration to carry these out. But I did not justify them using
all
violence.
The attacks on ICE.
Most of them for sure. Yeah.
Let me just jump in. I apologize. We got 2 more super chats. We are a little bit on time now. It's been a riveting debate. I appreciate it. So first, we're going to read one from. We'll come back to whatever I just got texted. Let me read one from V99DA for $10. And then hold on. I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to read another one that we got super chatted in Streamlabs. So you can respond. Make it quick. I know you'll want to respond, but just wait. So we'll do the second super chat. But go ahead. It's going to be Tom. You said that when Destiny said right wingers fear for their lives when they go to rallies, you said that was base. Can you elaborate? You POS.
So I think that in general in society, people are afraid of doing bad things because there is some sort of fear that there will be repercussions, and that I think that if I went out and just started pointing guns at people, even if I thought I could get away with it, I would, from the cops, I would still be afraid that somebody else would shoot me because of it. And so I do think that,
go ahead, finish out.
I do think that, yes, there ought to be some sort of societal fear from people that they are not going to go out and just support fascism.
All right. So I got one more for you, and then you can respond to both of his responses, and then we'll see if anybody's got anything left after that. All right, this is from Aqua to Streamlabs. Thank you so much, Aqua. This is the Tom, I believe, as well. It doesn't say specifically, but I'm believing it is. We caught you slipping up. Your words saying the left is politically violent. We caught you smiling. You get F and an FU. Too. I read that earlier, but I guess that's the second time. But this is a tech team. This is not my fault as a mod. My bad for me to read that twice. It was funny the first time. Still funny the second time. Go ahead and respond to his last one. If you would like to, Rob.
No, it's fine.
All right. Any other questions from the audience before we wrap up? I don't know, but he does look like a character from one of the greatest game series of all time. So why don't you go fuck yourself? How's that? Anyway, moving on.
It's gay because of that fucking coat you're in.
I mean, listen, is it gay if the balls don't touch? Anyway, moving on. We're closing out here. Thank you all so much for being here. Grid, everybody, shout out Grid. Round of applause for Grid for hosting. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, chat. You still have a chance to donate while I'm bullshitting for a couple minutes here. Thank you so much. I'm going to let our game competitors here. We'll start with you, Rob. What do you have coming up? Would you like to tell the chat about? And then we'll go to you.
Yeah. What would I like to shout out? If you're not at DebateCon tomorrow, it's a huge mistake. We're going to watch the Crucible wreck people 2 fucking days in a row. So, yeah. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much. What do you have going on, Mr. Foolery? What do you have going on in the future? Thank you for being here. I know this is a hostile environment. I appreciate you coming. I know I usually go to the hostile environment, so I know it's not always fun, but you're a game competitor. Thanks for coming. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to promote? What you got?
I appreciate Grit inviting me. I'm glad that we ended up with a lefty here. So I'm glad I was able to represent over here. And I appreciate everybody's questions and everybody showing up. Thanks to all the super chatters. Y'all keep sending them super chats. They definitely put on an awesome event here. I stream every day on YouTube, Tomfoolery Show, about 8 to 10 hours a day. So come check me out.
Well, thanks so much. I will shout myself out as well because I'm a narcissist. I'm Admiral Gibbs. If you enjoyed the moderating or hated it, follow me anyway because I need the fucking follows. I don't need your money, but I need those follows. Whatever he just said, fuck him. Anyway, but thank you so much. This has been a very fun event. Big shout out to Grid. Thank you again so much. Make sure you watch Grid. He's a regular on my show. I enjoy it. And
shout out his channel.
Yeah, you're here on his channel. It's The Unreasonable Man on YouTube, aka YouTube / the whatever A symbol Grid Motorsports. Or more importantly, guys, go follow him on Twitch so he can get more money there because he needs the numbers higher there. I know I'm a Twitch guy and I know my people are watching. So go follow him and all that good shit. We appreciate it. Follow everybody here. Thank you so much. Any other closing thoughts, Grid, before we end? Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of male pad involved in this. I don't know. That's a good question.
Been a great day. Every single debate was awesome. It's been really cool.
Yeah, once again, shout out to Grid and shout out to the tech team and all the people that have assisted. We appreciate it so much. Y'all have been fantastic. And hopefully this is the start of many more of these to come. Woo! Thank you. All right, and on that note, I'm out, guys. Appreciate it.